the first system that we got in BFA straight off the bat. Last week, I asked you guys to post your character details. Hello, beautiful people. Yes. Whew, it worked. Welcome to the second podcast of Method to the Madness. We have some beautiful, lovely people together here tonight. Starting off with, we have some returning people and a new entry this week. First of all, we have the poster god himself, Jeeth, coming back. Welcome, Jeeth.
Thank you, sir. Glad to be here again.
Always a serious poker face. I like it. Yeah.
I'll try to be a little bit more animated this time. I saw some feedback questioning my engagement in the podcast last time, so
yeah,
I'll let a little bit more.
A little bit of body language tonight. Okay. And you can, by the way, guys, you can see below each person their tweets and Twitter. So if you want to check these guys out, that's where you'll find them. So yeah, Jeeth, Holy Paladin for Method. If anyone for some reason doesn't know that by now, yeah. That's our first guest for tonight. Secondly, we have another returning player from Method, Merez. Hello, Merez.
Hello, Roger.
Hello. Try to blink this time, Jeeth. Okay. Merez, who's a bit versatile. He plays tanks, DPS. Haven't seen him heal much, but we'll see.
Lorgok took the spot last raid.
True.
If you remember.
Lorgok bringing out the Resto Druid action out of nowhere. But yeah, welcome, Merez. And the third, the new guy this week around, you know it. It's your boy, Deep Shades. Welcome, Deep Shades.
Hello. Wait, who actually got kicked for me?
Just
Yeah, Just Wait was here last time. Yeah. Deep Shades plays a Warlock mainly. Used to play Shaman in the past a bit more, but haven't seen the base Shades lately in action. But yeah, there you go. And he, I don't know if everyone knows that. Fabo Deep Shades is from Germany, same as Merez, and Jeeth is from across the ocean. They united to the States of America. So, what are we talking about today? Well, it's basically going to be a what do you call it? A potpourri and passepartout. I don't know if those words mean anything to you, but basically all of BFA and the systems that were in BFA and what we want to see in the Shadowlands Alpha. So we'll go one by one in the systems that we've had in BFA, or maybe if we have like a good system from the past that we want to see again in the Shadowlands, and try to make sense of what did Blizzard want to do with these things, what ended up happening with these things, these systems, and the good, the bad, how would we change them to make them good. And yeah, how about you? Oh yeah, I've been in Method for a few years now. Wait, no sound? Wait, what? Okay, debated.
Debated
a bit. So without further ado, I'm not for a big introduction, so we'll just gonna jump straight through it. In the chat, by the way, if you have a topic towards the end that we haven't discussed, then keep it in mind, like write it down if you want something that is in this topic that we're discussing today. Maybe we'll take some questions basically in the end, and maybe we forgot something. That is basically, don't forget about it. Write it down, and we'll get to it later on. So, okay. Then let us start from the first thing, the first system that we got in BFA, straight off the bat. I think this is the first one that we saw from the alpha that was going completely away from what we're used to, and that would be the Azurite Armors, right? So the Azurite traits, the shoulder, chest, and helm. We got rid of tier sets. We got this instead. And let's just initial thoughts. how do you think it played out overall throughout the expansion, like from start to finish? Let's start with Jeeth. What do you think?
I don't think it'll come as a surprise to anyone that I don't think that dropping tier sets for Azurite was a good idea. The strength of tier sets is that it kept gameplay fresh over the course of an entire expansion. The way you play changed from tier to tier in interesting ways usually. Whereas with Azurite, except for directly adjusting or adding traits, there's nothing fresh. You kind of play the same traits the entire expansion unless something gets added. Also, the difficulty in acquiring Azurite, particularly at the beginning of the expansion, combined with the ease with which you could ascertain that some was really, really strong and other was really, really weak, left you feeling pretty bad because you came in knowing we want these 3 traits, but there's no source from which I can reliably acquire them. And most people felt similarly to how they did at the beginning of Legion, probably with legendaries, where they know they want this and this, but they don't have it, and they feel inevitably bad about it. So it didn't seem like a very good system at the beginning. As it became more easily acquirable, it improved, but I still think it's demonstrably inferior to tier sets just because of its staleness compared to the freshness tier sets provide.
Okay, that's a good introduction. I pretty much agree with that wholeheartedly. Maris, do you agree with that? Do you have to add something just as an overall thing before we get into the nitty gritty?
I think I agree, but the only thing I want to add is that the main problem I see in Azurite is that at the end, right now, most of the classes only want like specific traits, 2 or 3 of them, and the rest is completely useless. That's like, I think that's kind of sad how it turned out.
Yeah, and
we don't have a lot of choice.
They realized that and tried to give us the good ones in this last raid with
Oh,
the.
of course, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What about you, Deep Shades? Anything specific? Yeah.
Nah, I agree there with Meris. It feels like you would just play the same tier set basically the whole expansion. Like you would never actually swap from like the first one that ever came out. I think like very few classes actually changed over the course of the expansion. The Azurite wishes.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Specific traits, gassing wound, perfecto. That would be a good trait. I would pick that trait in a heartbeat. But okay, let's try to break down what was wrong with it, because I think personally that there was potential in this system. I understand like when they were in the drawing board, they were like, let's do something different, and it will play out this way. But why did it not? I'm sure they didn't want to have the disaster like it was, right? Because let's face it, especially at the start, now it's a lot better, but at the start it wasn't. I think I'm just gonna go one by one. The problems that I thought. The first problem I think is that the respecting part of it. I think a lot of people did not appreciate that you didn't have, when you switched your spec, you had to go and respec it. I personally think that was a big mistake from them. People didn't really want to go to respec their armor. Not to mention the gold cost if you wanted to switch a lot of the times. So what you ended up having to do is have multiple of the same pieces just so that you don't have to go and respec, which makes no sense in my head in terms of why would I, let's say I have Primal Instincts on my Hunter as BM, which does something for my Aspect of the Wild. Well, when I respec to Survival, why would it stay in that trait? It makes no sense. It does nothing for me. I wish it worked more like the talents do, or how the tier pieces worked in the past, where when you respec, it automatically switches to that. Do you think that's a like let's Deep Sage? Let's go the other way around. Do you think that was a big problem of it? That especially I know Warlocks need like a bunch of them because they want to play all 3 specs. It just limits you basically. Is that how you feel about it?
Yeah, I mean, I think we have been all complaining about this the whole expansion. Like especially as like all the classes that have like 3 DPS specs, for example. Or I guess even if you're like a hybrid, like if you just wanna play 2 specs, especially at the beginning of a patch where you don't have accessibility to all the like best Azurite gear sets anyway already, you just have to always make the sacrifice. Either I spend millions of gold on progression, or I just stick with a weaker spec for a single boss just because I don't want to respec. As a Warlock, maybe like you can't go Affliction because you don't want to respec for one particular boss again, and it just makes it a little bit more boring also for early farm.
Yeah. Anything from I guess Jeeth, you as a holy paladin, did you have to respec a lot? Did you feel that problem?
Well, I have a couple in tier 1 when the problem was the largest. I was playing a priest in Uldir, and I did have to respec a ton. I spent massive amounts of gold trying to play optimally on every single boss. One of the potential strengths, in my opinion, of Azurite was its flexibility and the ability to say, okay, so for this boss or this encounter or this content, I want, this particular trait, but for this content, I want a different one. For priest, for example, maybe you want some single target healing spells. For paladin, maybe you're swapping between healing output versus indomitable justice, which does more damage. The flexibility that the Azurite traits provide, allowing you to, customize your build for content, was a potential huge strength that I don't understand why it was so massively undercut by the requirement that you pay a ton of gold to swap it around per encounter or have a ton of RNG getting the set. So I'll say that I didn't like it at all. But I think that it comes down to a tension we've seen in a lot of ways throughout this game between players who kind of say, we just want really fun content and we'll play a lot when it's fun, versus Blizzard that's very clearly designing treadmills, right? It's very easy to see why they would want you to have to not be able to respec your Azurite, because it makes you play more to get more Azurite so that you can have it for all these situations, versus players who are like, I just want it to work in all these situations and then I'll do the fun content, I think that that's the tension going there.
You think they purposefully made it so that they discourage you from respeccing it so that you go and get it again?
So you'd go
Is
play
that
more. Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
That's interesting.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Anything on that, Meres? Do you think Blizzard is forcing us to play more? Is that like a conscious thing, or was it just an oversight and then they just stuck with it?
I don't know. I'm actually not too sure. It makes sense, and we're also playing more because of it. But it's also they maybe saw it and were like, yeah, why change it now? Because basically what Jeeves said, yeah, the people are playing more, so why change it now? No reason to. So I don't know. But I think in general, we can all agree that the respecking is one of the main problems from Azurite. I would have also loved I just swap spec, basically like my talents, the Azurite trade swap as well, perfect.
Yeah.
Would have been so easy.
Not to mention, if you're PvPing as well, you probably want to change again. If you're
exactly.
PvPing with the same spec you're PvEing with, you probably want to change again. So it's just adds up massively to the cost if you are like you play more and you get punished for it, is what it feels like. So definitely I think that is, I don't know why they didn't change that. They changed a lot of other things though. So another thing that was at the start of the game, of BFA, sorry, was they had a lot of passive like proc stuff. Like, does anyone remember Dagger in the Back, which was pretty overpowered at the start?
And Gut Ripper.
Gut Ripper
Yeah.
I'm going to.
Like they put a lot of those things that were the same for everyone, which I think is a problem on its own. But then they also had a few that were really cool. I remember playing the Warrior early on in the expansion, and Test of Might felt really cool. It was like a subtle thing that altered a bit your rotation, where you have to spam raids after you do your what's called the Warbreaker, and you gained more damage because of that. Like altering a bit your rotation because of what you chose, I think is what they should have gone more into. And instead we got a lot of those passive ones. I don't know if people still even use those, like the passive ones, or did they nerf them all to oblivion and now everyone is using their spec specific cool trait? I actually don't know. Do you Deep Sage, do you still use any of those boring passive ones?
I'm thinking not like in my tier 1 and 2, nah.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in general, since we like started with like talking about the beginning of the expansion, I think it was like in Legion with the legendaries, there was just too big of a variety. Like you had too big differences between like the best and the worst ones. So like getting actual items with the good ones was very hard. I think it's like always the issue from Blizzard, they wanna be creative and give you like a handful of different ideas, but majority of them just end up being useless. And like they're not fast enough actually buffing the bad ones. I felt that was a big issue.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't in wait? Oh yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
But wasn't in Uldi also the problem that they were only like two Azurites from each slot, and they were also all from the last bosses, like the last 3. So it was also like, and the bosses were, I don't know how it was, but it was pretty awful to get the raid Azurites.
Yeah, you had 5 pieces. I think 2 times 2, and then 1 times 1 slot.
Yeah, and then there was
depending after armor, like yeah.
Yeah, and then there was this Archive of the Titan, where was also like, I don't know. I think the general idea was good, but yeah, well, I can agree with what Fabo said. That was just the main problem was that you can't get it. Yeah, the Azurite was a good idea, but it was hard to get.
Yeah. Do you think the whole residuum thing is a good system overall to have? Like moving forward into Shadowlands, do you think they should keep this the residuum as a way to guarantee you get? I don't know if they're gonna have Azurite pieces again. Well, I guess not Azurite, but something similar. Or are they gonna go back to tier sets? But still, having from the weekly box or scrapping any tier pieces, would you want to see a similar system moving forward into Shadowlands?
Absolutely. For as long as I can remember, people have wanted a gear system where at least there's some kind of safety valve where you can work towards some guarantee, some certainty in your gearing. Same thing happened in Legion with legendaries at the end when they added a currency where you could buy whatever legendary you wanted. People loved that. Valor was a similar thing in the past. I think that it's always good to have some kind of release valve where you can get gear you want and not always be at the mercy of RNG, particularly if extreme power increases are gated behind gear like legendaries or Azurite or corruption, which is another similar effect.
Mm-hmm.
Can only agree, yeah.
What about the? I think we saw that a bit as well with the visions, what they're doing now, where I guess we can all agree it is a really cool thing to have this new currency that allows you to socket items that don't have a socket, and you just work your way towards that instead of hoping for the 10% chance that it drops. And yeah, like I definitely think more systems of currencies, more currencies that you farm up, and you know you're gonna get something good eventually, makes it feel more worthwhile. Yeah. I mean, I guess what are your thoughts on this socket thing? Dipsades, have you been spamming any visions? Have you been socketing anything, or you're like, dude?
Fabo and online.
Nah, I actually did 5 mask visions. I didn't get my first socket yet, but I mean it's good for people that actually do care right now still about the game, just getting their gear upgraded, especially like if you wanna push like high keys and stuff. I don't think the system is bad, and I guess it's something like that is optional to you if you wanna do it or not. So like it's not really forced upon you, which is also a great thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for the system, I think it's really good, Roger. But the main problem is that I have with the vision system and the corruption and how you can get everything is that you can't get every item from the vision. What makes it really depressing for me. Like you can't get weapons, you can't get rings from the end reward of the vision.
True.
Yeah, lots of bracers and boots.
So that's like why? Yeah, it makes no sense. Why can you not just get every loot?
Before we jump into the visions, though, because I think that's definitely a cool thing that they've implemented, and they probably will move forward with. Would you, just in general, do you think the Azurite Armour system can be improved upon and be kept for Shadowlands, or should they just scrap it completely and go back to tier sets that we're all used to? Starting with Maris, what do you think?
I think they can keep it for sure, but in my opinion, they need to. Or I'm hoping they will do it because they said they're gonna work about it. It's like how you unlock it right now. I think it's bad. Obviously, the AP system is another topic, but I think if you would get one next year, you should just have everything enabled, and you can just pick whatever you want, and you don't need to level up your neck or something else to unlock it. Yeah, you should just loot it, and then you have a Azurite piece that you can use without limitation.
Would you prefer if they went back to tier sets instead, or do you think this is a better system if they work on it?
I think it's a better system if they work on it, and I would only want to go back to tier sets if there's actually master loot again. For me personally. Because
Okay.
I think it will be really depressing to try to get a 4-piece with only personal loot. Yeah.
Why not both? Someone's saying. Oof.
That's
We
even
don't know. I haven't thought of that, honestly.
Yeah.
That seems a bit much.
That seems a bit much, yeah. Then you have like no slots,
no off
or
pieces. Yeah.
yeah, like what would it be? Unless you mean that the tier set gives you a set bonus and is an Azurite piece at the same time.
I think it would be also hard to balance for Blizzard. Like there's so many
Yeah.
factors then that you have to take into account.
Yeah, that is pretty. I mean, that might be a bit too much. I don't know. Interesting idea though. What about you, Jeeth? Scrap the idea completely or keep it and work on it?
It's really hard because my inclination is to say, scrap it. I like tier sets, but I worry when every single expansion is built around a couple of complex interlocking gearing systems, and then they scrap them and bring in a new one, and then it's shit at the beginning and only gets good at the end. The same thing happened with legendaries. The same thing happened with the artifact. If they do the same thing with Azurite again, then I'm a little bit dreading what system we'll have at the beginning of the next expansion and how long it'll take to be good. And at some point, I think it's worth, saying, okay, we got this working well. Let's keep it in some form. So maybe that should be Azurite.
Okay. Interesting. So you're open to the idea then?
Yeah.
I was
Although
expecting
I'm
more
skeptical
negative.
that it'll happen.
I was expecting more like, no, just give us tiers. What about you, Deep Shades? Are you?
I actually would say kind of something similar to Jesse. I feel like usually Blizzard brings in new things, then people dislike it and they just kind of scrap it, and and then we just get something else that is not really well thought out at the beginning, and that gets scrapped again as well. So I do think Azurite, like the Azurite Armor, has a potential, and they should just stick with it for now and actually improve it over the next 1-2 expansions. Because if you think about it, after all, tier sets also got heavily changed. I mean, I think in Classic you started with like what, 8 pieces per tier set
Right. Yeah.
or something,
True.
and like then they changed it to like 4-piece, or like basically
Five,
there's 5
yeah.
pieces. Then you had like the additional one, I think, in Legion, which was the 6th, so you could even have 4-piece, 2-piece. I think tier sets didn't start out to be immediately the perfect system either, and I think the same is now with Azurite, and they should just work on it instead of like immediately scrapping it again.
All right.
Yeah. I definitely, like, my biggest problem currently with Azurite isn't the availability, it isn't the flexibility of the traits. It's the fact that it feels terrible to have to earn the same thing every new tier, right? It feels terrible that 3 tiers ago I farmed Mythic Plus and got a bunch of residuum and then bought one specific shoulder piece, and then the tier after that I did the same thing again, and then the tier after that I did the same thing again, and it's putting this continuing effort into not having anything better. Just the treadmill effect. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And that is what I think is.
And you're even buying the same piece, right? Like
it's just literally the exact.
Just
same
30 levels higher. Oh, great! Yeah.
Every single tier.
And you're like, maybe I should gamble for it. I'm feeling lucky.
No, right,
JK.
don't.
JK. If you have gambled and you got lucky, then check W's in the chat. If you gambled and you're like me and you have gambled 20 times and got nothing, then do some Pepe hands or something, dude. I don't know. Man. What a salty subject to touch upon.
I don't know, I'm always lucky, so.
What, everyone got lucky or what?
I think Jeep got lucky. I got lucky.
I don't know if you can call what I did getting lucky. One of my 3 guys got what he wanted.
Yeah, that's what I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Alright, it's a 50-50. Okay. Interesting.
The other thing, just on a note, we said the word when we were talking about getting rid of an old system and bringing in a new one. I was just getting triggered because we kept saying scrapping, and I think we can all agree that needs to go.
Oh yes, let's quickly touch on that.
No, there's no quickly, Roger.
Expulsum. Expel the expulsum out of this game, please. Blizzard, I beg you. It is the worst thing in terms of crafting I have ever seen in these 15 years of World of Warcraft. I have never seen anything worse than that. Is there even a debate on this one? Like, can you see any redeeming factor of expulsum?
Yeah.
Anyone? Okay. What is it?
It makes that people can make a lot of money on the auction house, yeah.
Oh, with making bracers of linen or something.
Yeah, this tight spray linen, man. Otherwise, they would be complete useless. In general, I feel like all the resources that I looted so far, or like 80% of the resources I looted in this patch are useless.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of like some random meat or fish that I loot, and like you don't even use it for anything. I craft like those items once for an achievement, and that's it.
The
Yeah.
biggest effects that Expulsum had on me, there were two. The first was I spent a lot more time reading about and learning about macros in order to have macros that automatically mailed
True.
things around and automatically
True.
disenchanted things. So that was the biggest effect on my gameplay. And then the other one is I spent quite a bit of time finding things that I could do while tabbed out, while crafting 1,324 pairs of bracers. So I'm not sure that those are the effects that Blizzard should be looking to add to their games.
Was it just making you a better multitasker? Is what you're saying, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks, Blizzard.
But yeah, exactly.
Learn to code and multitask. What a great lesson.
But
Yeah.
the thing is, in my opinion, Expulsum would have been fine if you would have only needed, for example, a certain amount for an item. Let's say you need 20 Expulsum for legs in the first tier, and you get it also back when you scrap it. And for the next tier, you need like 35, and then you need like 50 for the next tier or whatever.
Right, if you didn't lose it, if you didn't have
if you don't lose it, exactly.
Yeah.
That would have been completely fine with me, but that I lose half of my Expulsum from crafting is interesting system, yeah.
Yeah. Or I don't know, usually things like Expulsum, don't they usually make them that they're not BOP anymore? They're not soulbound. You can just trade them, or at least account bound, so that you can, I don't know, send them from other characters or just buy them off the auction house. That I remember a lot of times that's what we did with similar currencies or regions.
That's true.
But
Why
isn't
haven't?
also
Yeah.
sorry,
Hmm.
but isn't also the issue, since we're talking about we need so much Expulsum, that actually crafting is RNG, what stats we get?
Right.
Shouldn't there be maybe a way that you actually target the stats you want instead
Well,
of like us needing 500 Expulsum because we need like 10 attempts to actually get the proper stats? There's just like, okay, you can craft this stats, you can craft this stats, or it's just baseline stats for everyone the same.
I think the solution might be, I don't know, I'm just throwing this out there. It literally just occurred to me. Maybe what happened to profession BOEs? Why can't the people who enjoy doing this craft 1 million pairs of legs with all kinds of stats for fire mages and warlocks, and then that's a competition with, raid drop BOEs, might drop the price, make things more accessible for everyone, and then people can do that if they want, and we don't feel like, oh, in order to be raiders we must have these professions and we have to farm 1,000 Expulsum and craft 30 pairs of legs to get the right stats. I don't know.
They did. Okay, before we complain about that, they did say that they are planning. I think, at least I remember hearing that they did for Shadowlands. You're gonna be able to put a gem. Okay, when you're crafting, let's say, a pair of leather legs, you put a gem, and if the gem is like crit haste or whatever, like you put a crit and a haste gem, then you're gonna get crit and haste on your legs. I think they suggested something like that,
Yeah.
which is a good thing, obviously. I don't know if the ratio of those will be random or not, because you can get like 70% crit, 30% haste, or the opposite, and that's pretty big difference. So I don't know if that will be addressed.
It
But
also
at least
depends on the. Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
no, at least it limits the RNG was what I was gonna say. Go on.
Well, that's a maybe though, right? Because I don't remember what they said, but it sounded like maybe it's not a gem that you like go and buy. It's stuff will drop from the tower, and you have some crit haste stuff drop, and you put them together, and then it has your legendary whatever has crit haste on it. Well, that just moves the RNG level. Instead of it, you press craft and there's RNG in what it has. Now it's RNG in what drops. Will you be able to acquire the stats you want to stick onto your gear? I don't know.
Good question. Don't know. I guess we'll find out. But at least it seems that they're thinking about it. That it's a bit annoying, completely randomly crafting until you get your proper stats. So that's a good thing. Anything else on the professions you guys want to touch on for this expansion? Do you care about them? Do you not care? Whatever. Apart from the actual items that we obviously crafting for a DPS. Yeah.
I think you and Meres are like the better people to talk to about. I mean, you guys
Yeah,
do it
that's-
probably for achievements. I mean, I only use the professions that actually give me something for progress-related things, like blacksmithing, leatherworking, tailoring, jewel crafting, or what else is it? Jewel crafting and one more. But no, does inscription really do engineering exactly?
Yeah, engineering.
Does inscription do something very important this expansion? Professions like this? I don't know.
No.
Well,
It's like, I don't know. I couldn't care less about the professions, but I think we should be able to make more than 2, because sometimes that feels like, I think they should just scrap all of this crafting, raid gear and stuff, man, and make it BOE, what Chief said, and just people can have more than 2.
Yeah, I don't think they should get rid of crafting in general, because it's like a historic part of an RPG in general. But allow people who enjoy, like, it's a big game. People can enjoy different parts of it. Some people love crafting. Let them craft and then sell me their stuff, and I'll give them gold to not have to craft.
I would give them all the gold, if I don't need to craft my stats.
I would give my part of my soul for a perfectly rolled ring, honestly. Okay, the one thing I will say, we don't have to dwell too much into it, is can we get an update on fishing or or archaeology? Jesus, those professions. Those professions are just thrown in there in the gutter. Like they don't even think about doing anything with them. It feels like, they're just there. Hey, you still throw the fishing line and just click the thing. Exciting. So yeah, I don't know. I think they should either remove them maybe or actually work on them.
Until, as long as Savor Deviate Delight is in the game, fishing is sacred.
Yeah, but they can come up with a different way of fishing. Like, I don't know.
Or you just right click like in other games, you fucking jump into the river and then you can then you have a net and you can fish yourself, as character.
Make it into like some kind of mini game or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Not just this mind destroying process.
No, archaeology is fun, but we should move on, Roger.
Yeah, moving on. Moving on. Yeah. I didn't want to touch on it too much. All right. Next big thing in this expansion, apart from Azerite Armour, which is what they introduced. Like, oh guys, BFA, we're gonna have island expeditions and Warfronts. Those were the 2 big things that they said they're gonna push as new content. And let's say, so I'm gonna start off by saying what a disappointment. And the one other thing I was gonna say is, I remember myself when I was at BlizzCon and I saw them. Or let me go back. When I was at BlizzCon for Legion, I was like, oh shit, sorry. Oh damn. This looks cool, right? When they introduced what they're gonna do with this Legion expansion. And when a BFA came out, I was like, interesting. That was the feeling I got instantly, and I guess I kept it throughout the whole expansion. I didn't really feel like it was exciting new stuff that they introduced. Compare that to like Mage Tower and what they had in Legion. What did you guys think of both of those? I mean, you can talk on both of them because I think they're on the same level. Starting with Deep Sage.
I mean, I was definitely the same when we saw the preview for BFA. I said immediately that doesn't seem too exciting or too interesting. I do have to, however, say I do think islands have more potential than Warfronts. I think Warfronts just don't fit in the system of World of Warcraft. Like the half an hour part of collecting wood and iron, I think that is not fun for anyone. And since it's against NPCs that are very weak, you pretty much win baseline. I think very few players in this game have actually achieved to lose a Warfront. So I don't really see like the goal in them to begin with. But I do think if islands wouldn't have been so heavily forced upon you, and there would have been maybe better rewards, it could have been a cool system. I think a big issue in islands was, again, there was so many different items in a weekly cycle that you just had weeks where islands were super fast and super fun, depending also which islands were out, compared to the weeks where you had no good items. So unless you were like one of the more hardcore players that stockpiled on the good items and sent them over the mailbox, it was just no fun in the following weeks. But I do think islands, since they have like this like what we do in the preparation weeks when we really try hard them and min-max them. At the end of the day, even though we don't enjoy them playing them 14 hours, I think it's kind of fun to actually optimize them and get like these 2-minute islands averages. Like if you would have always had access to all the items and maybe can queue up for a specific island, or if PvP islands would have been more lucrative, I don't think the system is bad completely.
Do you think it could have turned into a? I mean, okay, this might sound stupid, but do you think if it was more open-ended and stuff, and you could pick and choose which island you want to do and what items to use and all that, it could have turned into a pseudo challenge mode thing to see who can do it the fastest? I mean, okay, now it is really easy as it is now because they didn't scale the map, but in the past it would have taken you like a good 5 minutes, let's say, probably.
Yeah, maybe either who does it the fastest or PvP islands would have gotten more emphasis, and maybe people actually had fun doing the islands while strategizing if you should go attack the enemies or not. Obviously, that should then be coupled with like a proper rewarding system, which I think is a bigger issue in World of Warcraft. But
Yeah.
I think islands had a potential for sure.
Do you think the rewards is what ruined them? Like them having AP as an endless source of AP, and then the mounts and transmog and all that was especially at the start, like it's so scarce that no one even got mounts after doing like 100 islands, which is beyond me. And then in the end, they introduced these bags where you get them for free, basically. The mounts
Yeah, that's
so
true.
much easier. Do you think the reward system throughout the expansion is what really killed islands in terms of the fun aspect of them?
I think in general, anything you do in World of Warcraft, you should do first of all because you're enjoying it. But there definitely rewards would be an incentive to maybe go a bit more ham on them. And yeah, especially since the mounts in the very beginning were so impossible to get. I mean, after the first 1,000 islands, I thought I had one collected so far. It just feels really de-incentivizing to actually go into them. So yeah, I do think the rewards was a bigger issue in that.
Okay. Jeeth, any other stuff to talk about the islands or the Warfronts? I mean,
Not a lot to say about islands that hasn't already been said. I think that's all been said. The one thing I want to say about Warfronts is that I think there was obviously it was a huge flop. They're way too easy and incredibly boring. But there was potential there with their attempt to evoke the old Warcraft RPG games that everyone really enjoyed, the RTS games. I think that they needed to do one of two things. I mean, the fun of the old Warcraft 3 game, for example, was either doing the campaign or doing PvP. And I feel like that should have been recognized, that, you know, throwing us into this base versus base, unlosable, go harvest wood and then win the game thing was terrible. But if it had been if it had been like a new battleground archetype, that could have been really cool. It just turned the Warfront into PvP, and it instantly is 10 times more fun. It's, you can't just go harvest wood because someone might have 2 people and come kill you and take your wood. And I think that might have been so. And if you can't do that, then turn it in, maybe bring something in some kind of campaign wise. But just leaving it flat as it was with base versus base, upgrade buildings win, that was really boring. But I think there was potential there that they could have exploited.
What about islands PvP? Do you think there was potential there? If they, again, I think the rewards were a bit weird and it obviously wasn't balanced at all. Like you go in against when me and Maris and Xaro were doing the achievement for 50 PvP wins, all you needed was a warlock who saved up some flashfire brew, which for anyone who doesn't know, increases your critical strike damage by 300%, and then one chaos bolt, boom, the guy is gone. Like, it's so awfully tuned for PvP. But could there have been something there, you think?
I don't know. I don't think deeply about PvP. I'm fine with, like, the only issue that I ever saw with islands was the fact that they were the most efficient way of grinding massive amounts of AP. If it weren't for that, I would be completely happy with how they are right now. If you enjoy going in and doing weird gimmicky things in PvP islands and you want to add some rewards to make people go do that, that's fine. Some people will enjoy casting 40 million chaos bolts. Other people will hate being the recipient of 40 million chaos bolts. That kind of gimmicky stuff is fine, as long as you're not forced into it. If it's for mounts and stuff, that's fine. But the fact that it was the most efficient way to grind mandatory amounts of AP made everything about islands awful for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah. I can only agree with the Warfront topic, by the way.
All right.
And I also think that islands would have been fun, in my opinion, if they would have changed the system. What we already said that, for example, you need to do 3 islands, or let's say you need to do 5 per week for your AP, and after that they don't reward as much AP anymore, or maybe no AP, and you have like some other stuff where you can work towards like transmog mounts, like just a collectible stuff, yeah, for like people who want to farm it. Then also all of us wouldn't have hated islands if we only had to do 5 per week on per character. Yeah, would have been perfect content for us.
That's true. If you just did your weekly and you were out of there, which to be
Exactly.
fair is what I think they intended it to be,
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
then it's fine. I just don't know. It feels like an emissary, kind of, right? Like it's an emissary. You go, you do it, or a weekly emissary. But then why leave it out there that you can keep going? You know, I don't know. Or and have these massive rewards. They even increased the EP reward at some point just to make it even more lucrative for people to go and spam it, which is a bit weird. Do you think the Warfronts lacked a bit of a direction? Because I think as an idea it sounds cool, right? Like everyone has played Warcraft 3, at least anyone who's around our age has played Warcraft 3,
Wait a second.
right? Uh, and it sounded good. I just instantly felt like, how are they going to implement this? How are they going to implement this? So I think that's where it lacked a bit, personally. I mean, after the fact, of course, hindsight 2020 and all, but what if it was maybe like a 5-man experience, right? And you were like, let's say the heroes, or maybe even a solo, a 3-man experience, where you're the heroes of the base, and then you need to make tactical decisions of where to send troops and all that. It's not automated. Right now, everything is automated, and you're just going along and just, oh, let me check the map. Okay, I guess we attack this place next. If it was more tactical based and feel like an RPG into the sorry, RTS into a MMO, like in there, but it doesn't feel like an RTS. It just feels like YOLO, like a brawl in a high school or something.
No,
So
but
yeah,
Roger, if I can throw it in
yep,
real quick.
go on.
Do you remember when they announced the heroic Warfronts? I'm pretty sure they announced it with like, yeah, you
Mhm.
need 20 pre-made people, and it's like best for raid, like guilds and raid groups to queue up. And I was like expecting a lot. There will be like a new Warfront where you need to actually play proper or whatever, or like be in TeamSpeak, talk to the people, and then was the same Warfront just with more HP. That's
Yeah.
what like kind of killed it for me, in my opinion.
They just increased the HP values. That's
Yeah.
basically it. Yeah.
That was
And
so sad. I remember that they announced it, like, man, heroic Warfronts with bigger rewards and for guild groups and whatever. And I don't know. It was pretty sad.
definitely a
I
missed
thi-
opportunity to. Sorry, one last thing. A missed opportunity
Yeah.
to maybe try, as Jeeth said, a PvP new style of PvP, kind of like a new BG. But they didn't design it to be like that. I think it was a bit more linear pathway, and that's why they didn't explore that idea. Go. What did you want to say, Dipsits?
Well, I think a big problem with the Warfronts was also it was just something you kind of got forced to again for the reward.
True.
So, like the majority of players didn't even try actually to understand it and try to do minimum effort. Especially, like I said earlier, at the beginning of the Warfronts with the collecting stage, which is probably by far the most boring one, is like the biggest issue because maybe it seems kind of fun when you control in the actual RPS. Is it RPS? RTS? Like in Warcraft
RTS,
3, yeah, RTS.
real-time strategy.
If,
Yeah.
exactly, like if you do it in Warcraft 3, it may be fun controlling all your units, having that micromanagement. But since like in World of Warcraft, every individual player is just doing it with their one main character, you just run from place A to B, collect a little bit of wood. I think just that kind of system doesn't really work in WoW because like how is that fun to begin with? And then
Yeah.
like you guys said, since the difficulty was so easy, didn't matter if normal mode or heroic, it was just always destined to fail in my eyes.
Could
Yeah,
they,
Roger suggested turning us into the Arthas, and instead Blizzard turned us into the peons.
exactly. Yes, wait. That's a perfect way of putting it. You didn't have any control of what the peons do. You were the peon. That's it. And not even
That's true.
that, right? Because if you had, let's say you have the 20-man raid, you go into a heroic warfront, you're like, let's do this. Then why not have one guy be the leader and he decides where people go, and you're just the footman, and you get like the orders like go there and attack there, and you're like, oh, and you go.
Chop wood for 20 minutes.
Yeah,
Then you will right click leave through.
no. They could have done something more than what they did for sure. It just feels like they gave up and they're like, there you go. Yeah, job's done. Okay.
I can do that.
I can do that. We need more wood. Oh, what was it? Or more lumber. We need more lumber. Okay. I think we've discussed them enough. Do you want to see any of these systems moving forward into Shadowlands, or complete X? Never want to see them again? Do you think? I jokingly tweeted about, what if you go to a Shadow expedition and to get some anima power? Do you think they should?
Yeah.
Please.
No? Okay.
As I said, I think it's fine if they, for example, implement islands and I need to do like 10 islands per week or 5 for my weekly reward, and after that I don't get anima anymore. Yeah.
Okay.
Then I would be happy.
You would like to see them if they fix the reward system, is what you're saying. You don't mind them.
Well, I don't mind them. Yeah. If I'm
Okay.
not
I
forced
agree
to
with
do
that.
1k of them.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's an MMO after all. Like,
Yeah.
there should be things to do
Exactly.
on a weekly basis, even though, like, many people maybe from back in the days are still used to can kind of AFK, if you think about MOP or VOD, outside of maybe, like, the very small, like, weekly caps. But I think, like, nowadays it's just way too much. But if they actually regulate, like, how much you have to do for actual character progression, these systems can stay. Warfronts not really, but I think islands could be a thing.
I agree. Warfronts out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and before we move to the next,
It's good that it's a big game. Yeah. I'm sorry,
True.
go ahead.
do you think, I have this small tiny bit of suspicion that they were planning a third Warfront which got snapped? Do you
No,
have
they
a?
did.
Yeah? How do you know?
Well, there was. I'm pretty sure that maybe I remember wrong, but I'm pretty sure there was a post on Wowhead that they were like trying to make a new Warfront, and then they just remade Heroic Darkshore.
Okay.
But maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe.
Someone on Twitch
It
that
just
knows.
feels like, you know how the screen when you select it, it has, it just makes sense that it's 1, 2, 3, right? And it's just 1, 2. Kind of like the Mage Tower had 3 options, sorry, not the Mage Tower, like the building of the Broken Shore, where you chose one of the 3 buildings. It just makes sense, right? Like 3 is the magic number. But yeah, it got scrapped. I think they understood that it wasn't going anywhere. Okay. Anything else to add, or are we moving on to the next topic? I guess.
It is actually kind of funny what Xinian Font said. Islands were insanely fun to watch when Bomb was there. And you know, like, when they changed a little bit the system within islands where you have, like, these objectives, like the jetpack that we farmed, or, like, the little tank that you can build, it is kind of weird, because if you think about it, for one individual island, it would be never worth to either build the tank or the jetpack.
True.
So it's kind of weird what, like, Blizzard did change something with the islands over the course of an expansion, but it wasn't really like a good fix, if you think about it in hindsight. Like, who would build a jetpack for just one single island?
True.
That's true. I think
They could.
yeah.
No, you go.
Maybe the amount of time you spend in an island should have been increased, and obviously the rewards increased with it. So instead of doing 3 islands, you do 2 bigger islands, right? Because yeah, like, they're just over so quickly. I don't know what the average time the player takes to complete an island, but I'm guessing it's around 5 to 10 minutes. It can't be more than that. So bothering to learn all the little things that they've put there, you just kind of ignore them and you just kill stuff and you're done. So they could have. I think that's a bit of a flaw of them, that they are over so soon that people don't bother to explore what is there, which is what the feeling should be, right? You go to an island to explore a new expedition. JK, just mass pull, kill, okay, done, bye. Yeah. Did you want to add something on it, Maris, think? Or?
No. That's
Okay.
basically what I wanted to say as well. Yeah, they would just need to increase, or for example, make it like put it together with the other idea. You need to do 5 islands, and you can build a tank for 5 islands. Yeah, or for your weekly cap, or like a scenario where you need to do 3 islands in a row, and you do all 3 in a row, for example. Like, I don't know, there are so many solutions to the problem, but I just didn't bother.
Okay. Excellent. So, moving on to the next one. I'll do a quick one. This is my personal thing. I'm sure we can all agree on this one, but maybe not actually. Mission table. I want it
Yeah.
gone. I want it destroyed. Well, not destroyed. I mean, I just think it served its purpose in the World of Warcraft game. It's time to say goodbye to this annoying thing that you just have to go there and just send use some kind of add-on, and then you have people, which add-on is it that automates this, because I don't want to actually play this system. I just want to press a button like it's some kind of mobile game that you have to collect every day, something. It just feels not WoW like, in my opinion. It doesn't fit the WoW game anymore. It was tried out in the garrisons, then it was scaled down in the order halls. Now they just threw it in there just because. Is there any reason to have it? Or at least if they have it, make it so that the rewards are not power gains. They're just some random stuff like pet charms or whatever. And
Then we need to keep it. But
I do agree though. Honestly, like in the garrison, it was like a big emphasis on this whole system,
Mhm.
which was some people loved it, some people disliked it. Then going into Legion, the only good thing about it was that you got actual raid items from the missions, if people remember, which I never thought was a good, which I never thought was a good idea. And I think you even
Yeah.
got an additional bonus roll.
A coin,
But
yeah,
for-
you got a
yeah,
yeah,
coin.
you got a coin and 2 like you got Heimal item and the other one,
Exactly.
HFC, I think.
No,
For
Blackrock, I
content,
think. Yeah.
for content, I think
Oh.
that is not good because I mean, at the end of the day, you just send a mission and you get something so big. So I was happy that they removed it in BFA, but then it also kind of completely lost its purpose. You always have to farm like these war resources from World Quest. Let's say you have like a little time where you don't really do World Quest. You run out of them. You kind of want to still send missions. Can't do that either. So like there's several systems working with each other, but at the end of the day, it's not really worth. Like you can min-max the mission table, but like I wouldn't say it's fun either. We just do it
And-
because it saves
yeah.
us a little bit of time. But at the end of the day, I log in or put my mobile like take my mobile phone in the hand, click the missions quick and send it. Like that is not World of Warcraft. That's not an MMORPG.
I think that's what my problem mainly is. It's not fun. It's just a waste of time, in my opinion. What about you, Jeeth? Anything to add on this mission table topic?
No.
No. Okay.
No.
Excellent.
No.
Excellent. I'm glad
it's
we
fine,
agree.
yeah. Like
Yeah.
it's useless, yeah. I think it was fine that we had like stuff to send in the other expansion, what Bob already said, yeah. Like I don't know, you had to send like some stuff to get your ships back or whatever, like some RP factor. But
Oh yeah, the ships, man. I forgot about
like
the
the ships, yeah. Because someone just mentioned in chat that there was
Shipyard,
the
true.
shipyard and the other
Oh.
one in what, and you got raid items from like different sources, yeah. I think it was fine, and the system was okay, but it's over now, yeah, because they also removed everything that made it valuable for people. But I think, Roger, it will never happen.
What, you think
Because
they're keeping it?
Yeah, of course.
No way.
Because
I believe they're gonna remove
it's
it.
a passive world quest reward, yeah, that they would need to replace, yeah.
Just lower
Re-
the AP you need, or whatever it is. Just lower the amount you need and just remove it. I don't know.
No, but I mean, like,
Oh.
for example, half of the world quests right now are war resources, yeah. So if they remove the table, they would
Oh.
also need to redo half of the world quest rewards for the next expansion.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
at the
I
end
don't
of the
know.
day, it's the game, and they make a whole new expansion. I've
Yeah,
putting a little bit of work in changing the rewards up, and I think that should be expected from a company like Blizzard.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe.
I do get your point, though. I 100% do get your point for sure.
Okay. Moving on though. I mean, this was just a side thing. We'll see, but I have hopes that they're gonna remove this piece of wood that you have to click every day. Now, since you mentioned it, I think that is something that should be touched upon a little bit, and it is world quests. So I think we can all agree that world quests are not bad overall, but it feels like they somehow managed to make world questing worse than in Legion, which is a bit strange to see, right? Like, how can you not improve on a already existing system that you had in Legion, which I think maybe it's because it was new, people embraced it a bit, but it really came down to the end where you were like, oh, I have to do world quests again. The emissaries, I think, is where it's the sweet spot, where it's okay, you do the emissary. But do you guys think what was wrong with world quests? Because I definitely felt like, oh crap, I need to go and do world quests, and I was super bored of doing them. Did you guys have the same feeling? Did you just stop doing them? What was your take on world quests? Mares, let's go with you first.
Okay, I'm probably the worst example because I think work like I still do them, so it's fine. No, actually I just stopped. But I think work quests are fine, and I think also they should keep them. But in my opinion, to fix a lot of issues and also the that you like get annoyed by doing work quests, they should drastically reduce the amount of work quests on the map. For example, they should, if there's like a Zuldazar emissary, there should be 4 or 5 work quests max on the Zuldazar map.
Yeah.
So you can just go there, do all the work quests in that zone, and you're done. And which means on all the other zones, they also cut everything in half. So you don't get. I remember when ny'alotha came out, I was flying like to 28 different work quests per day because they gave AP. And if they would just like lower it or half it, basically, it would be way more enjoyable. And also, maybe not enjoyable, but it would be. People would complain way less, in my opinion.
Okay, interesting. So less world quests. What about the time it takes to do a world quest right now, or in the expansion in general? Do you think they took too long to complete, or if
No,
they?
I think it was fine, in my
Was
opinion.
fine?
But they should
Okay.
remove the time shit, yeah?
What time?
They should just make them 24 hours, all of them, every time. So you
Also,
don't
that they
have.
don't reset in
Yeah,
the
you
middle
don't
of a
have work
day.
quests like randomly respawning at 8 p.m. or at 4 p.m. and then like time.
True.
It should just be on a daily reset. They respawn, done. Problem.
That's a good point. What about you, Jeeth? Anything for the world quests?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with everything Mira said. I think I would make fewer world quests. I'd make them more meaningful, maybe take a little bit longer and dramatically more rewarding. And because I don't do them at all right now. I do world
Same.
quests when it's necessary in order to, I don't know, which hasn't happened in a while, but if there were a lot fewer of them and they were way more rewarding, I think this would be a good way of getting some passive gold back in the game. For example, right now the amount of gold you get from world quests is completely trivial, and it feels like we need some kind of like a little bit of passive income in the game. I don't know. That might be a way of doing that, but fewer of them, more meaningful, a little bit more like either difficult or takes longer per quest, so it doesn't feel like I fly to this spot, do 15 seconds of auto attacking or whatever, push 1 2 3, then fly all the way across the continent to another place, do 1 2 3, and 20 different flights to do incredibly trivial tasks. I'd rather fly 4 places to do somewhat more meaningful tasks, get large rewards. I don't mind that it's a task that you log in and do every day. That's fine. I understand the game needing that kind of thing, but they could be tweaked a little bit.
Yeah, I think that is a very good point that you both are making here. Like less travel time. It just feels like when you are, oh, I need a Champions of Azeroth quest, world quest. Let me see, where's the closest one? And you open the map, you go to Kultiras, you're like, oh man, I have to go to that stupid mountain, ice mountain again. Okay, let's go. And it just, you take so long to get there. And it just feels horrible. So yeah, I think the flying time, the travel time that you have to, they need to work on that. Cut it down, make it that you stay on a place and you just do a lot of stuff in that one area, and you get properly rewarded. What about you, Deep Sage? Anything to add on the world quests?
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
definitely less. I think a big issue is also, even though we get more zones throughout the expansion, the old zones kind of still give you the same rewards, which is AP, and like it's the exact same world quest as in the beginning of the expansion, which is
Mhm.
very boring. I feel like doing the same quest over and over again, and I feel like maybe it would be more fun, but that's like really like role player-ish. Just have, instead of like permanent world quests up, more like these invasions or attacks in like one zone, but it's always like new like different world quests, and you just have like a more like theme-based assault. I don't know, like it sounds so role-player thing, but I don't know, some blood trolls are attacking Zuldazar or some whatever, like, or you attack like an alliance zone rather than like you have permanently everything up. I don't know, like every day logging in and seeing like the whole map filled is, I don't know, not exciting for me at least.
So kind of like how the invasions work. Not sorry, I don't know, man. Assaults, invasions, incursions, whatever they're
Yeah,
called.
something
Like,
similar like this.
um, not the new ones, not the visions of N'Zoth thing, but the thing that comes every, what is it, 8 hours or something.
You mean
Uh,
a PvP assault or what?
yeah, the
What do you
PvP
mean? Yeah.
assault, right? Something like that where you would go there, but that would be the default situation where you go
Yeah,
there.
kind of.
There's like 4 or 5 quests right next to each other. And
Yeah,
when
then you
you
have like
complete
no
it,
travel time. Yeah.
yeah, when you complete it, you get like some big reward. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
A bit more meaningful reward, like Jesse said. Then you have less travel time because we go to a specific zone. It could be also up on 2 zones at the same time. Doesn't obviously have to be PvP themed, like I said. Could be also just like some random clan is attacking a zone. I don't know, some ogres are attacking Vol'dun. Shit like damn things like this. But something more in
Save the
that
whole
direction.
paradise, dude.
Yeah.
um, right, but can we agree that them trying to go back to daily quests in these latest parts is a bit odd? I don't.
Yeah.
I personally don't think anyone really likes daily quests more than world quest. It's just that world quest did not really replace daily quests exactly. They've become something else. They've become more and more annoying to do in a sense. But I still think personally stick with world quests. Just work on them, make them feel fresh. Don't just throw them out there randomly in the map. Would we agree with that? Like we want to see world quests in Shadowlands and not daily quests or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like for me, the main problem right now is also, I don't know how you guys feel, but I feel like it's the 3 world quests or 5 the 5 daily quests. Sorry, I do every day. Take the time I would like in that time I would do 20 world quests. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
It feels really bad. Like they need to decide on one system. I agree with that.
Picking the quests up and turning them back in feels very tedious in 2020 World of Warcraft.
Yeah.
You just I don't know. That's definitely a no in my opinion. How about we remove both?
But then you don't
I
have
mean,
anything to do. Yeah.
then what do? Right? Then you have to
Wait, did
raid.
someone ask that or what?
No,
Or
someone
someone-
just a comment in the chat.
Yeah, I don't know, but that's the big thing in general with systems in World of Warcraft. Even though you might not like it, it's still something that other people like, but it should just be not like forced
Yeah.
on you, or like not to a big extent. I don't mind like if I have to do things that I don't like, if it rewards me, but it shouldn't take up the majority of my day or like of my game time to do things that I don't want to do.
Mhm. Okay. I think we can move on to the next topic. Unless Jeeth, did you have anything to add? I don't think so. Or what did you?
No, I was going to say exactly what you did. The only distinction between daily quests and world quests that I can see is the physically going to the place and reporting into your sergeant saying, "What shall I do today, boss?" and then
Yeah.
saying, "I did it." And in 2020, none of us do that anymore, right? We're all
Exactly. I mean, we
we're
just
all
we just
distance
send a
workers
message
now.
to them, yeah, like,
Exactly,
yo, I did
yeah.
it. Send me the gold.
Quick text,
Yeah, you don't have to actually go. Okay. I have a few more topics to go through, so I'm just gonna move on to the next one. Let's leave the last. I know which one we leave for the last one. Right now, a quick mention and Bible thumb for this not being there in Shadowlands. Most likely, from what they said, artifact power. Anyone here that liked artifact power Raise your hand. Okay. I see Jeeth has raised his hand.
Yeah,
What
Jeep
did
is
you?
like
I will
jumping, yeah.
say I will say that the Legion artifact power system, where you were continuously acquiring new abilities, felt way better than the BFA Azurite power system, where you're regaining abilities that on the exact same ability you already had, just that got put out of reach until you do the same treadmill again. That was a huge downgrade. Get rid of that. If you're gonna have artifact power, have it giving you something new.
Yeah.
Do you
Oh yeah.
do,
And,
do you think there should be a thing in the game that you just play and everywhere, like you do dungeons, bosses, world quests, whatever, you get this thing that slowly increases the strength of your character, or do you want to get rid of that completely? Because I think that's the main thing. We can talk about how it was implemented, but do we want a system like that in Shadowlands at all? Maris?
can I start? Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely want. In my opinion, my ideal world would be you have an artifact weapon again, or like kind of similar system where you have stuff to unlock and stuff to work towards to,
Mm-hmm.
but you have a cap of increase you can get per week.
Okay.
That would be my ideal world. So you have like, I don't know, for example, Legion, you could farm 1 million AP in the end per week. What was like, you did your raid, you did like some world quests, you did like 2 or 3 emissaries or whatever, and then you had your cap.
Mm-hmm.
And then your character was basically done for the week improving. Because I think the game definitely needs a system where you improve every week, like where you slowly improve and you don't just go from 0 to hero in one raid, for
Sure,
example.
sure. Do you think this every week the artifact knowledge, like let's say that they have this system, which I think they did say that they're probably not gonna have, but I'm not, I wouldn't put my hand in the fire for it. Uh, if that phrase makes sense, it's a Greek phrase. But do you do you think the artifact knowledge was a good thing or a bad thing? Because I think in general I don't like that system um, being the only thing that allows people to catch up. If there is a weekly cap, then I don't mind having this, but just this feeling of, oh, I'm pumping, like you prepare for progress, for us at least, or for whatever goal you want to reach, and you do a lot of stuff to get there because your guild needs it or you need it to PvP, to do MM plus or whatever, and then once you have it, you're like, oh, okay, I spent like 20 hours in islands or doing world quests. Great, now I have my thing. 2 weeks later, this guy who's just opening his Mythic Plus box and just doing a normal mode raid also has reached the same point that you have with the same effort. With way less effort. It just feels awful. Whereas if there is a cap, I understand. If someone makes a brand new character, they can quickly catch up, but and slowly the catch up becomes smaller. But in general, like artifact knowledge, did you like it as a catch up system, or would you rather have just the caps and people can get back to their current cap, similar to the conquest rewards? If you've seen like the caps of conquest, you can catch up,
Yeah.
but you need to blast, right? I think that's fair. Or the legendary cloak, right? They made it a little bit easier, which makes sense, but you need to blast a bit some visions to catch up to the current thing. Go on, Deep Sage.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, when you were talking about it, I think the Conquest cap is, like, perfectly. I think they did it already back in VOD, where you can just always reach to the, like, up-to-date level where everyone is.
Mhm.
And I don't think, like, artifact knowledge is that great either. I think it should be, maybe if you make a complete new character, it should go a little bit faster. There should be maybe a way, like, to get, like, up to the up-to-date level a bit easier. But like by the amount of artifact knowledge they did it this time, it does feel kind of like you waste time if you want it immediately. Because in the end, you just think of how many less islands you would have had to do if you waited. But in our case, we obviously can't wait. So I do definitely think also what Merison said, you just have like a weekly thing. You play a bit your raid or a little bit PvP. Maybe you have to do a bit extra steps, which is completely fine in an MMO, but it is on a weekly cap. Because I feel also like the average player won't go above that weekly cap either way. And I think especially nowadays with this unlimited caps, like we are not the best examples. Like in casual or like many casual guild nowadays have also ridiculous requirements for the raiders because they see, okay, Method is doing that much, then we do little bit less, and like
Yeah.
people basically get forced to play more as well just because the good guilds do it. Obviously, not every guild does that, and it's your decision if you wanna do it. But just having this unlimited farming available, I don't think is a good system. It
Very
just
good
leads
point.
to unhealthy behavior at the end of the day, I think.
And okay, I agree, of course. And I would say also perhaps having a set goal, a weekly goal, is a good thing for an MMO. Same as you said with the conquest cap, you just work on it throughout the week, and it doesn't feel bad, right? Like you can get it in so many ways. You just work on it. You might spam some arenas, get some boxes, do the Nazar PvP battle, whatever you're gonna do, or the call to arms quests, and it doesn't feel like a hassle. It feels even kind of cool, right? Like it's just a bonus reward. Um, Jeeth, any thoughts on that? I think you haven't. Yeah.
I I guess I don't mind artifact knowledge to the extent you guys do. I feel like working a lot more to have it, you said it feels like a waste to do this, to do way more work for the same result, but it's not the same result, right? It's the same power level but 3 weeks earlier. So working harder to have a higher power level earlier seems fine to me compared to working way less to have that power level achieved only 4 or 3 weeks later. That's okay. That doesn't bother me at all. I do agree, like my biggest things are, first, make the method of acquiring that power more fun and engaging, right? I just, please don't make me do 1,000 islands again. I'd rather do something like that's fun. And then second, some kind of reasonable cap or limit, or the conquest cap idea is fine. I think that those are all good ideas, but making it so that you don't spend 18 hours a day doing one repetitive activity in 2-minute increments all day long would be a good thing. Those are my stronger opinions. I don't mind artifact knowledge at all.
I appreciate how in that paragraph you've managed to fit both method and limit.
Yeah.
Both both words in there. As don't know if it was by mistake. Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I don't know. I do think they did say that there isn't gonna be such a system, but I'm sure they're gonna have some kind of thing. I mean,
Yep.
I can't imagine like all the world quests that used to give AP now just give gold, and just gold everywhere. Like world quests give gold, coining and not getting your loot gold. Like the emissaries that gave you AP gold now. I mean, they must have some kind of thing that, as we I guess discovered here, some kind of cap on it will be good, to keep things reasonable. Okay. Uh, Now, moving on to we're almost there, boys. A system that I think personally, let's talk about the positive things, in my opinion at least, is essences. I think I'm gonna go straight away and say essences, in my opinion, was the best new system implemented in BFA if you ignore the alts. If we're talking about your main and like as an idea, it feels like it's the M plus of Legion, or sorry, the M plus of BFA, kinda. So Legion, I think the biggest thing they brought in the game was M plus in terms of a new system. I think Essences is definitely a very good addition that they could move forward in Shadowlands. Personally, of course, with some tweaks, as we can see, a lot of people are um, happy that now they are at least fake, somewhat account wide. What were your thoughts though on it? Did you like acquiring the essences? Let's start with Deep Sage.
Honestly, I think acquiring them was fine overall, but I think essences are only in the game to begin with because the class design was so horrendous. So they kind of wanted to temporarily fix class design with like giving extra abilities or a little bit more synergy. And maybe for a few classes, the essences played out good, especially like if you maybe are a non-AoE class, you have the Azurite Beam Farm Plus, and you maybe get another big cooldown like the Condensed Life Force. But looking right now at a lot of classes, including my own one, something like Vision of Perfection, it just makes the class even more RNG and boring to some extent. So while I agree the essences itself were good in terms of BFA because the class design was so bad, I think they shouldn't be needed to begin with because class design should be better from the get-go, and there should be just something else we are farming for. But however, I do agree, like just farming them for your main, you had like something you could accomplish, something you were targeting. Also with the rank 4, I know you did it pretty early on, getting like everything rank 4 outside of the few RNG based ones. It's kind of cool. Push yourself to the limit, 2.4 in PvP, get the mythic boss down, like the mythic end boss down. Things like this is kind of cool also just for the average player that just wants like a little sense of accomplishment. But overall, I do think just give me a better class design and leave the essences out.
Fair enough, fair enough. Also, if you are a fellow champion of Azeroth, let us know in the comments, guys, or in the chat. Uh, Congratulations on that amazing title. Anyways, a good idea, I think, that was it. I think it was Nogi who suggested it. I thought it was really interesting. Is because I see a lot of people in the chat saying like, "Oh, like Blood of the Enemy, horrible to grind," or the PvP ones were really annoying, and whatever. I think a good idea might have been to have two different ways of acquiring the same essence. So let's say instead of farming 50,000 honor in random BGs, which was to begin with, that's what you had to do for Blood of the Enemy. What if they had a reached, I don't know what is a reasonable amount, reach 2,000 rating in RBG instead, which is would have helped that scene completely because RBG is fully dead if anyone doesn't know. Um, so have two ways, like one that is more grindy and you can safely get it, but it's going to take some time, and one where it's like, oh, but if you're like skillful or incentivize people to save time by getting into groups and playing better. What do you think about that idea, Maris?
I think it's a really good idea. In my
Mhm.
opinion, also a main flaw of the essence was in general that the some ways were really easy to obtain and some were really hard.
Yeah.
And there should have been way more options for people to actually play the game and get the essences. And then there were also what I think is the main problem with these essences. I think they should have just let some of the essences die out. I don't know. I feel like they
Well,
made too many of the essences. Yeah.
fair point.
In like there should have just been half of the essences, and then you would have also used every essence, for example, or
Yeah,
like it would have made sense to farm every essence and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, why did like as a quick example, why did we need Unbound Force really, right? It's kind of like
Ripple in space.
or
Yeah,
Ripple in
Ripple in
Space.
yeah.
I mean, they could have, as we said, this could have been alternate ways of getting, I don't know, like Vision of Perfection, right? So
But isn't
instead of doing Mecha Guns, you can do Nazdar stuff and get the same essence. Yeah, go on.
isn't that the usual issue like that we had with legendaries, then with the Azurite Armour, now with the essences? Blizzard just wants to bring like a big variety, maybe make a little gimmicky ones with the Ripple and Space teleport and stuff, but they end up being so useless that even your casual player won't probably use them. Like they're
Mhm.
so niche that like the amount of players that will ever use and touch them in the actual expansion is really low, and I think that's always the issue from Blizzard. And while I agree that your two-way targeting way for an essence is nice, but I think that was why they made the rank 4. Like something skill based was always in the rank 4 included,
Mhm.
while like the normal ranks was just something grindy or like something time gated, because you said like 2k in RBG. Okay, 2k is obviously not as high as 2.4, but I feel like that's kind of what they try to do. The skill thing is to challenge yourself and get like the cool legendary thing, and everything before is just like a little bit time gate, little bit grind. But I
Yeah,
do
it
agree, it's
just
a
it
cool
just felt
system, it's a cool idea.
it just felt like on specifically on like the Blood of the Enemy. I'm pretty sure we can all agree it was not just a little grinding. It was a lot of grinding.
Fully agreed, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they did lower it afterwards, but still, um, it's not the content you should really incentivize people to play, in my opinion. Random BGs, like, why do everything else, like, it was an outlier for sure. What about you, Jith? I'll be honest, I don't even know what the healer or the tank essences fully do. I'm hands up, because
Yeah.
do you think it was a good thing that they had separate ones for healers and tanks, or should they have kept it more simple? And to add on that, I always feel so bad, and at the same time, I'm just laughing at my little corner that what if I was like a paladin and I had 3 specs and then I have to farm more of the same stuff for the same essence? Like, why don't you just get everything at the same time? It just made no sense again. Why you had to at least partially pay a bigger price to get the same reward, right?
Well, it's not even partial. You just absolutely have to pay a bigger
Yeah.
price. And for the
I
most part, they
wasn't
made
it? I think they
getting specs cheaper.
they reduced the cost after you bought the
Yeah,
first one, right?
in most of the systems, your second specs essence and your third specs essence were cheaper than your first specs essence. Although
Mhm.
they didn't do that with the new essence from Visions. You need 45 sparks for each and every tier
Yeah.
3 for each spec. But I think that if you want healers and tanks to have I think it's good that they have different essences and that they're not just generic, right?
Mhm.
But you could have made it so that you get all of them from one source for all 3 respects at once. Like
Yeah.
when the hunter goes and buys his,
I'm
his
done.
Mechagon essence, then and then a paladin goes and gets it. They all get all of the essences from that work source instead of having to continue to work afterwards. Would have been better. My thoughts on essences are that I feel like the only reason essences were a good thing, and they were, was because classes this expansion are so shallow and anemic and unfun.
That's what Dipsit said
And
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
essences added some depth that hadn't been there before. So it's hard for me to be like, oh yeah, essences are great, when while they added stuff that we needed, it was just a band-aid. And I'm never gonna say that band-aid is a good thing, when instead you could have had a healthy game in the first place that was fun and fresh and changing in its own merit and in its own way. And the thing about essences is that it's a static change, right? You come into the patch that adds essences, and now you've got a whole bunch of cool new stuff to learn and adds freshness to the game. But then because it's static and now you have them, it also becomes stale. They need a system that can add freshness to how you play and keep things interesting over the course of the entire expansion, instead of this thing where they're like, oh shit, things are stale, let's add essences, and then it's stale again the next tier. That doesn't fix it. And that's I'm coming back to tier sets again, because that did that. Every new tier there was something new that added depth and flair and flavor to your class automatically as you acquired this power. And I think that that's a good thing that would kind of get rid of this need for band-aids. And the other thing I wanted to say, which is kind of on a different track, the one thing about essences that I really, really like was the acquisition principles.
Exactly what I was going to go to. It's a different topic, just to separate it for the viewers to keep track. It's a different thing what the actual essences did to the game, like what did you pressing those buttons feel like, and a different thing, like the acquisition, is what I think was the cool part of this, that you have to play all kinds of types of the game to get them, and they could use that moving forward. Is that what you're going to say? Sorry if I jumped in.
Basically, exactly right. Like the biggest weakness of tier sets was that there was only one activity that gave them, and in the absence of Master Loot in particular, it's an extraordinarily RNG way to obtain a power increase. For as long as I've played the game, I've heard people talk about and agreed with the fact that you should be able to work toward power increases in a kind of deterministic way, where you put an effort and eventually you're going to get rewarded. Not all power increases should be locked behind the RNG of did it drop or not. Does the master like me or not?
Does he have
so
you
I
on
like
the ban on the ignored list?
Exactly. So
yeah.
I like the fact that essences are a power. Like all of these things are just power increases, right? A piece of gear, an essence, a tier set. These are all power increases. I like the fact that essences were a power increase that you could say, I want blood of the enemy. This is the task I have to achieve. After achieving that task, I acquire my power increase. That's a good system, I think, of having power increases, and I like that. And having the variety of different ways of getting different ones is also cool. And if they were going to bring back tier sets, or in some way have some kind of system that gives you changing, fresh gameplay over the course of the entire expansion, instead of here's a system and then it becomes stale, whatever they do with that, if they do, it should be something that you can acquire in a deterministic way in a multitude of different activities, depending on what you enjoy.
Couldn't have articulated that better, honestly.
That's why you're here, bro.
That's whew.
Good
Excellent.
think English is his first tongue, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah, someone's bringing up like the legendaries of Legion, which was somewhat like you were doing stuff, whatever you did, and you had a chance to get a legendary, but it was completely random. Um, yeah, that could be like that's I guess a good point that you don't have to get like essences from this system. You don't have to get a Crucible 3 unlocked when you complete this. It could also be like, hey, if you do this content and you reach this goal, you're gonna get this legendary. Boom. And then you do whatever content fits your what you need in terms of legendaries. I'm just throwing a random idea here, right? But you can use this for whatever. It's just the fact that you get a specific reward for doing for reaching a goal that is for everyone the same, and it's not RNG based, as you said. I think that is a great system. Good job,
What
Blizzard.
what,
Yeah, I can say that. Yeah.
what I just feel more like, no, but it's not like necessarily just essences. It's like I feel like Blizzard should just concentrate more on like the basic things that are very good in this game, like I said back then, class design, raiding, PvP, and plus, and like actually focus on them. So like when you actually do content in World of Warcraft, it's not necessarily to farm for an essence, but to just improve at the game and then eventually reward something in get something rewarded in M plus with like a better reward system. I feel like there's so many systems nowadays in this game that are just there like either to band-aid, like Jesse and me before said, or just to keep the people kind of occupied rather than actually giving them something that is very fun. That's just how I feel. Like so many things we have farmed for this expansion was just to fix an initial error that Blizzard made in the expansion.
Focus more on the
And
base stuff, and then
yeah, I mean that's what the game is great. I mean raiding is what made the game great. PvP, especially arena, nowadays and plus. And I don't know if we have it still as a topic today, but that's where like the reward system kind of comes into play. I feel like we should just have a nice class design and people actually pushing for M plus and then actually get rewarded at the end of the season, similar like PvP, like
Okay,
where you actually get rewarded.
let's segue into the Mythic Plus then, and I would say that a lot of, at least my concern with M Plus is the affixes that are currently in the game. The reward system also, but I think the reward system is like a pretty big topic to get into.
True.
We can touch upon it, but what do you think? How does it feel playing an M plus key in BFA compared to Legion, and how do you want to see it in Shadowlands? And I'm just gonna start by saying I hope that they remove, if not all, the majority of the affixes and come up with new, less annoying things and more, how can I say? Even if they're just new and they're still annoying, I'll take it. I'm just bored of the same old affixes, but hopefully they will come up with some cool ideas. Like, for example, the ny'alotha pillars, I think is a great affix. Granted that it's like, a theme affix, but I think it's probably one of the best additions into M Plus that they've done in a while. Let's start with Jeeth. What do you think about M Plus? Have you been running it? What is your feel, as I said, compared to Legion? I know you've been running some of them, but
I ran some for 15 minutes.
I think
that was good.
Chief has the highest red AO. No,
True.
actually Roger. No, Roger.
Roger has
Do
that,
I?
and I do.
Yeah,
No.
I think so.
Slightly.
I only
Maybe.
did keys with the boys for a week or two.
The boys, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, then the boys fell apart. I really enjoy Mythic Plus. I think Mythic Plus is fun. It's more fun. It's a lot like classes in a way, right? The base dungeon needs to be fun in order for Mythic Plus to be fun. There needs to be creativity in the route you can take, entertaining trash that keeps you on your toes, so decisions to make about what trash you kill and what trash you don't kill, and fun bosses. And if those things are fun, then Mythic Plus will be fun even without affixes or seasonal affixes and things like that. I do think that the seasonal affix was a good thing to do as a way to bring in cool new affix ideas. But I think that maybe that should also be mirrored by phasing out affixes that don't add anything to the entertainment or challenge of a dungeon and just make people upset. There are some affixes out there that no one enjoys. and that people stop running dungeons that week because it slows you down so much that you can't push keys or you just have no fun doing them whatsoever.
Exactly. What about you, Meres? I was told to ask you about a weekly 15 underrot, no levers. What happened there?
Yeah, no, someone left. Yeah, no,
No.
but I think in general, like the M+ system, because also from a like the main problem I had with this like not this season, this expansion MDI was that they said they designed dungeons for MDI. That they said they like made competitive dungeons that are like also good for tournament play and stuff. What I think is completely wrong. They're like 3 good dungeons that are good for tournament play. The rest is just dungeons, yeah. And in my opinion, I don't know how you guys agree, but from my standpoint, from playing it like competitive and also how I enjoy the dungeons and stuff, I think Freehold, Atal, and what was the other one? And
Underlord?
Motherlode are actually dungeons that are competitive, really interesting, and also appealing to play for a lot of people. The only problem is that with Motherlode, obviously a bad example because you don't play half the trash. But if you would fix the dungeon, it would be really interesting, in my opinion. So I think
it's
yeah,
really
you
easy
go.
to see.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry to say I interrupted a little bit, but just jumping on that, I think you're absolutely right, and it's easy to see why. Right, those are open dungeons
Exactly.
with a lot of different pathings and routes and things and decisions to be made that allow you to be creative and competitive. As opposed
Open
to
the walls. Let us breathe. Let us breathe in our dungeons, man. Like I was doing a Tol Dagor as a Tauren. I can't even see what is in front of me as a Tauren. Like it's so. Oh.
It's true, yeah.
Stop
And
making buildings. Just open area. Thank you.
And to praise Blizzard here, we also said that in the feedback Discord and stuff. It's the Awakened affix is probably the best affix they made so far. Because it's actually important for every single group member. I know a lot of people were saying, "Oh, Reaping was way cooler," but we were also discussing it a lot in like the MDI and stuff. And Reaping was technically a cool affix, but it was only a 2-player out of 5-player affix, more or less, yeah. For DPS, it was like bonus damage. It's like cool, yeah, but it was not really an affix for you as a DPS player. But it was a really hard affix for the tank and the healer. Because they had to actually play the game. They had to either kite, dispel on time. They were like, it was actually a really hard affix for those 2 roles in the group. And the Awaken affix is basically taking everything that the group has to do, yeah? There's one guy where you have like stuff for a healer, then there's one tank affix, then there's an interrupt affix. There's basically for every part of the group, there's a specific affix where they need to get involved, yeah? Like, in that sense, it's really good, and I'm hoping myself for the Shadowlands that they just make open dungeons.
Yeah.
Maybe I personally also hope for shorter dungeons, but that's not always like the case. But just open dungeons where you can pick whatever you want to play, and then not make 200 bajillion mobs that cast like 8 different schools, and then I'm happy.
Yeah,
Because
less interrupting stuff, more
Yeah.
just playing the game, you know.
Like also
yeah.
maybe also more unavoidable stuff that does not kill you instantly, or like I don't know. Best example is still Waycrest, the disciple mob has 3 different schools and it's just permacasting it. And if you don't have an outlaw rogue controlling it or you're playing it alone, that mob will just rampage. Yeah? And that's like, for example, a mob that you could let free cast with an uninterruptible cast that would just do some damage and you could outplay it. But right now, how it is, it transforms, takes counter away. It's like really strange. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I think if they fix that kind of stuff, make wider dungeons, people have more choice in playing the game, make a similar affix to Awakening, where like everyone in the group is involved. I think that would be really cool.
All right. I do want to talk a bit more, but I'm just gonna let Deep Sage. Do you have to add anything to this? Because I've looked at the time and
yeah, I don't know. I have to say, as someone that like played a lot of M+ and Legion and was good at it, I think like this expansion has been horrible. I think a weekly affix kinda can destroy a season if it's a bad one. So just as soon as like there's an affix you don't like, the whole season is ruined for you. I think that's what happened also in BFA with Infested from the get-go. Like I think the majority of people can agree that Infested was a horrendous affix,
pretty bad,
which made people afterwards even not go into M+ anymore. So as good as a season affix can be, it can also go the other way around. I fully agree with like the dungeon should be way more open. It shouldn't be just linear. You should have options where to go, what trash to play. In my opinion, it's only like Atal, Freehold, and Untitled that did that good. But then again, I didn't play tournament like Meres, so in that regard, he's more knowledgeable. I do think also still that the tournament mode, aka the speed running, is way more interesting than the actual high key pushing, because like first of all, it's still random what key you get. Like there should be at least like after you complete a key option out of 3 keys, you can choose or something afterwards, and it's like it sounds very harsh, but I feel like high key pushing has way less skill involved than running it fast. Like the tactic is pretty obvious most of the time. You are very reliant on the BIS classes. So are you in the MDI, obviously, let's not lie about that. But especially since you guys have the interrupting nowadays and like so much trash and everything, melees are just ultimately way better overall than most ranges, which makes it like for me as a warlock obviously already like very, very disappointing to even step foot into M+. And the rewarding system once again is just horrendous. Like there should be seasonal titles again. There should be maybe cool mounts at the end of a season or something. But like all you get is like a little bit of loot, which in my case is not interesting for me.
Yeah, what about the affixes? I don't. Did you, in general, talk about? Am I the only one who feels like,
Nah, I
oh
think
man,
they're bad as well. I
Yeah.
think the majority of affixes aren't fun. And Noggy has said it a long time ago, and I put it in also when I spoke once a bit more elaborate on a Mythic Plus in my Reddit post back in the days. Maybe there should be even positive affixes that can help you or give you
Mhm.
buffs at certain moments in a dungeon, or like maybe a permanent buff, a Bloodlust reset. I don't know. Blizzard will find something that makes sense, but I don't think affixes always necessarily have to be bad. And yeah, I agree with both Jesse and you, Roger. I think Meres didn't talk too much about the affixes itself. There is like some that are just not fun. Independent if they're hard or easy, some are just not fun. And Blizzard has to find a way to make more of them fun to play and like bring a little bit more fresh affixes in that makes M+ more spicy again or enjoyable.
Yeah.
Either way.
Yeah, I would say like looking at how much work they put in Legion to get this system off the ground, I was expecting something cool in BFA, and it just felt like they didn't put as much emphasis on it. They thought like, hey, everyone liked it, let's just keep it the same. Um, I think I'm hoping that they will work on it though, come up with cool ideas, like they did with the Awakened. Just come up with more of that, and it's gonna be cool. Also, Tyrannical, please, please, no more Tyrannical. I
That was
beg.
what I
In-
just wanted still to say.
Yeah.
Sorry, Meres. Fortified
Yeah.
and Tyrannical, I do not think there should be an affix. I think there should be a cool middle ground that is every week active instead of 1 week I play 5-minute bosses
Yes.
and 1 week I play 30 minutes trash but a 1-minute boss. Obviously a little bit exaggerated, but you guys get the point. I do not think that either of the affixes give anything in the actual gameplay.
Yeah, I can, because I wanted to say something about it. I think that's also a main problem that people saw in Legion, but it never changed. So
Yeah.
like, Legion was also awful to play. Certain, like if you were playing Fortified or Tyrannical in Legion, was the biggest difference ever. So
Not just
really
that,
sad.
isn't it really hard to like balance specifically like the tank specs if you like can you make all the tank specs survive a, let's say right now, 23, 24, 25 tyrannical boss or the fortified trust? Like they should just have this middle ground, as Dipsit said, in my opinion, so that they make their life easier to balance, and also the dungeon has a flow to it, and not just kill trust, kill trust, kill trust. Oh, boss dead in like 1 minute, and then back to trust. Like obviously, when they design these dungeons, they have this in mind by default, so it doesn't make too much sense. Guess we can agree on that. Jeeth, as a holy paladin, do you want tyrannical gone as well, or do you like?
Yeah, I think there's room to get rid of a lot of affixes and try new ones. I think that there should be more cycling. Drop old ones that no one likes, bring in new ones in general. I think that'd be a good thing. I see no virtue in having a weekly cycle of hard bosses versus hard trash. As the key goes up, both get harder. I think that is obsolete, should be gone. When you say as a holy paladin, my biggest thing as a healer, and this has been true for both expansions of Mythic Plus, is that Mythic Plus has never gotten healing right. The vast majority of the globals that a healer casts in Mythic Plus are DPS globals. There are occasional moments that are hard to heal, but for the most part, as a healer in Mythic Plus, you feel like a shitty DPS because healer DPS kits are deliberately designed to be pretty shallow and unfun. You know, you push Consecrate, or you push swipe, or you push, you know, these fairly shallow and unfun rotations, because all of the depth of your spec, to the extent it exists, is in the healing buttons, and therefore I would like to actually push those buttons more frequently in Mythic Plus. But because most of the damage in Mythic Plus is designed to kill you unless you correctly avoid it, you need to stun, stop, kick, not stand in it. That design means that there's very little unavoidable damage, and for the most part, the most relevant healing done in a dungeon is done by the tank, and the healer is left there, you know, pushing his DPS buttons and having kind of a shitty time. I wish that dungeons made healing more relevant. That's been my consistent complaint about dungeons from a healer perspective for both expansions.
So would you say that it ties down a bit with what Mara said, like more unavoidable damage but less spiky?
Yeah, absolutely.
Kind of. Yeah. Okay.
The one issue that you're going to run into with unavoidable damage is the Legion issue of at a certain point you reach a key level where the
Just
damage is
one-shot.
unavoidable, and
Yeah.
it just one-shots you and kills you. And you have to ask the question, is it good to have, do you want the dungeon design to be such that higher keys mean eventually you don't have enough damage to do it in time, or do you want it to be such that they do so much damage you can't do it in time? Those are two different ways of running into a cap, and some people want one cap more than the other. But I do think that something to make healing the bulk of what you do and more interesting in dungeons would be a good thing. The most fun I have is when a boss is hard to heal, and those are very rare in dungeons, because DPS buttons as a healer, I mean, at that point you should be playing a DPS. They're more fun.
It just
They do
doesn't
damage in a
feel
more fun
right.
way.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
On a side note, real quick,
Yep.
when we were playing the KSN tournament and we were doing the 17 keys, the first thing Ken said after the 2 dungeons we did was like, "Do we need to play a healer?" Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Because he felt completely useless in those keys. Yeah. And yeah.
But I think difficulty in general is an issue in M+. Like, it's not only for like healers, Jesse. Especially I feel like in high keys. Like I said before, I think like pushing through them has way more skill involved than actually just pushing high. And like this feels the same as a DPS, but just that you as a DPS, I guess, can blast, which is fun for the average human, obviously. Like you see your big numbers, you're having fun, but I don't think it's necessarily difficult at any time. You know what to interrupt, you have a lot of add-ons helping you, and I think the biggest role in M+, like the exact opposite towards raiding is like tank. Tank in M+ has so much responsibility, and maybe it's for him hard, but I think both healer and DPSs can chill quite a bit.
All right, guys, because we're running a bit low on time, I just wanna let's switch topic, and indeed, as DeepSeeds actually whispered me, we could be talking for M+ for so long. We might talk about M+, like deep dive into M+, another in another podcast, but because it feels like we're just scraping the top right now. So let's just quickly, just all around loot system. Can we all agree? Bring back master loot. Yes.
+1.
+1. Whereas, yes.
Yeah.
What about you, Jeet? Or you like your
Yeah.
odds?
No. Master
I think
I
the
like
only
my
guy
odds,
the only guy who is who could potentially not want master loot is Chinchi and Meres, actually. That's in my opinion, just because they get
Like,
everything anyways.
I like it, yeah, when people trade me and then I loot the exact opposite pieces, so I don't need to trade anyone. Yeah, it's
Exactly.
the perfect loot system.
But yeah, I mean, please, master loot, bring it back. Now
To me, there are.
Go on.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir.
Oh, I didn't know
I
you
was
had
just gonna
more.
say, yeah. I mean, for me, master loot doesn't need to come back because, you know, this loot system feels bad, or because I want to get more loot. I don't care about that. But I look at it with an eye toward competitiveness and rewarding skill. And to me, master loot enables a guild to prepare for a tier better. If you're anticipating what specs are going to be good, what the meta is going to be, and planning to gear up those kind of classes is part of the skill set of solving the puzzles that is Mythic raiding. And if a guild has a competitive advantage in saying, oh, I think that, you know, 3 Death Knights is going to be really good next tier, and wants to gear those up, they should be able to do that. And master loot enables you to do that in a way that personal loot just doesn't. You know, you can correctly anticipate that we want X comp, and then because of personal loot, just not have the gear on those characters to play them, and that undercuts the competitiveness and removes a dimension of competitiveness from Mythic rating. And then second, Master Loot just punishes individuals, right? So you have two rogue players, and one of them is 5% better player, but the other one gets a weapon drop. You know, it's unfortunate that RNG can cause someone to not get slotted based on just that personal loot, whereas in a Master Loot system you would have made sure that your 5% better rogue gets a weapon. So
Or
those are
whoever
the two
trades me
reasons
the
why I
most
just think
gold.
it's,
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely.
true.
I agree.
But I think
yeah.
even from a MMO standpoint, Master Loot is just better. I feel like, I mean, this game should be played as a team, or like in guilds in this game, and like you should actually work as a team together and like decide who gets what, who deserves it, who has been like putting effort for the team. That's why I also think like if you do like a heroic raid, for example, as a guild team and a heroic raid as a pack, the guild team should maybe get like an additional loot per boss or something to actually get rewarded going the extra mile, having a proper guild, setting up raids versus just pugging. Because I feel like that's why we play this game, or for like the social aspect, playing with others. It's a massive multiplayer online game. Like,
I will say that I agree in the general sense of there should be more incentives to get in a guild and raid with them. Like, it doesn't have to be much, right? It could be what you said. It could be other things, but I've just seen slowly but steadily there's like less incentives to be in a guild. Why do you? Oh, come on. Okay, sorry, some weird Windows sounds popping up. All good. Um, why do you need to be in a guild anymore? You don't really. You just pug stuff and that's
Yeah,
it.
only for Mythic rating, really.
Yeah,
That's the
like,
only thing you need to get right now.
give us more incentives, in my opinion at least, to be in a guild.
yeah,
I
to
don't
play
know.
together.
Go through the process of, hey, let's form this raid, let's get this set up. Oh, we need a healer, recruit all of that, prepare the consumables and all, and then get rewarded for it. Not just get the same stuff as you could have just focused on yourself. Not waste your time making a guild and joining a guild or whatever and socializing with people. Just focus on your character and then just go in a pug and get the same stuff. It's just, yeah. Um, yeah, you don't have to talk to anyone either. Exactly. Like,
That makes like the whole social system, I feel like, in the game worse. Like, pugging is ultimately very toxic a lot of times. People just leave keys, people just leave raids, and I feel like
No.
right,
especially,
G?
like
Right, G?
and I feel like, I don't know if you guys have these questions as well, but people seem to tend to struggle nowadays really hard finding actual friends in the game. Like, I don't know if I should join a guild, or like I don't know how like to get into keys. No one invites me and stuff, and I don't know. People seem like so socially incompetent nowadays, which is very sad. I feel like in a game like WoW.
F's in the chat if you have no friends in World of Warcraft.
no
I mean,
friends.
it sounded very harsh, but I think we all got experience in our streams.
I mean, I'll agree. I'll agree. Like in the past, definitely was the game made you build more relationships, and kind of forced you to find people to do stuff with. Now with all the systems and the queuing and all, not that I dislike the queuing system. Let's get that clear. I like being in like the group finder. I think is a good system to have.
Yeah,
But
for
but
sure.
so I'm not saying. I hate when people are like, no, this like. Okay, LFR I hate regardless, but like these systems, they just you don't have to run to the dungeon. Like, yeah, you're ruining that part. So, no, get rid of Dungeon Finder, get rid of Group Finder. No, like those things are good. How about you find a different reason to do what you wanna accomplish? So, do you want to explore the world more? Find another reason, not just because you have to fly to a freaking dungeon every week. Find a cool reason why people would want to go around instead. Do you want to socialize with people? Yeah, keep LFR or whatever, like Group Finder, and but force them into forming guilds and building relationships with other incentives. I don't want to like demolish the game and go back to like the classic ways. but they haven't actually done something, in my opinion, to address that problem in a different way. Yeah, a bit of a rant there. I don't know if you guys
Oh, it's true.
yeah,
I don't know, I
wanna
can't
add
really
on
add
something.
anything. Yeah.
I've just been this has been in my head for like years now, and they haven't really done something about it from what I've seen. Okay. Well, if you don't have anything else to add, I do have one more topic, but I don't know. We're running a bit late in time. Do you guys want to do the last one? It's a biggie a bit. Are you fine with it?
I mean, I don't have any dates planned anymore today.
Okay, okay.
How
Let's
about the
just
dates early already?
No,
let's
no.
let's just dive into it. I left it for last. Here it is. Corruptions. Okay.
Oh, whoa.
So.
I'm going. Shit.
I'm pretty sure we're not gonna see a similar system in Shadowlands. It wouldn't really make sense. What?
Didn't they say it's only like an experiment right now?
Right, exactly.
For Nusov.
So
okay.
I want to see your thoughts, or I want to hear your thoughts. Sorry. How do you think this experiment? What has it taught us? And let's say like a similar system. How would you tweak it for Shadowlands? Because obviously we can talk about all the million problems. We all like it's been discussed to death. So let's just focus on, as it stands right now, the system. What would you want to see changed so that it's a good system and you like seeing it in Shadowlands with a different name or whatever? Let's start with Jeeth. Sorry.
I'm just boggled trying to think about anything about it that I could possibly say I want to keep or change or
Really?
anything good about it at all. Yeah, I mean, we can split this up again, right? Similar to Essences, there's the ways in which it adds to your class's depth and abilities and your power, and then also acquisition. And when it comes to corruption, both were shit. The acquisition of corruption was horrendous, and because it came at the end of the expansion, they didn't have the ability to iterate over the course of the expansion to allow you to get it to the place where it was good when it was relevant. And then the way in which it increases your power is terrible. I want classes to be fun and complex and deep and fresh and interesting to play, not feel like every time you do any kind of content, what matters isn't what buttons you push or how you push them, but what your gear does on its own randomly. That feels awful. It's unmotivating to people who want to get better, because getting better doesn't matter. What matters is how much your infinite stars procs. And it's demotivating to people who play well, because playing well doesn't matter. What matters is how often your ineffable truth procs. It's a terrible way to add power to the game. And then the acquisition system was potentially even worse. I don't know. I don't see anything good about any of it. Get rid of it all. Don't keep a single bit.
All of it. Okay. Well, because I thought that was a bit harsh on this system. I will say, for example, one improvement which I think would vastly improve on what we currently have would be that reduce the RNG of getting the proper corruption for your item. So what I mean by that is, what if instead of it being a crit amp leather belt or whatever it is, it was just an amp belt, and then you would open that belt and you would, similar to similar to Azerites, but obviously a much more bare bones UI. You could choose the rank of your corruption and your what amp you want. You want crit amp, you want haste amp, you want all of that, and then group up the effects basically in small bundles like that. So do you want to have echoing voids? Do you want to have infinite stars, or what's the other one? Like the little thing that goes like this and destroys everything.
Twilight Devastation.
Twilight
The
Devastation, right? Yeah. So you put all of those, and then you can choose like, oh, for AOE I want this. For single target I go infinite stars. Like make it actual customization of your gear with some options instead of a full lottery. That's what I think is really annoying here. What would you think with that system, Jeeth? Would you like it a lot more, or would you still say F.
That fixes a little bit of acquisition. Like there's ways to improve acquisition systems, but the problem is that the 3 corruptions you just mentioned, Infinite Stars, Echoing Void, and Twilight Devastation, none of them have any interaction whatsoever with how you play your character. They just happen
Okay.
or they don't, and they have way too big of an impact on the outcome. Whereas I think that Skillshot instead, I would delete every single one of those, and I would hate to have a choice between the 3 of them given to all of my DPS in my guild, because then they're all going to be like, haha, I got procs, or fuck, I didn't get procs. And then it's like, well, all right, GG, I enjoyed that boss
Unluck.
fight.
Unluck,
Yeah.
Chuck.
I think too, like that like the best, or like kinda the best corruptions are again just random procs is very boring. Like you just hear always in our raids, oh yeah, I'm procking so much, or where are my procs? I think this is a big issue. Then basically the same like early on with Azurite. If you look at the loot table in the raid, like for example, casters can get the Infinite Star Sword, but I think sword can't be used on a priest and on a shaman. So
Yeah, also,
people
also
that
Boomkin. A lot of casters can't use it.
So there are certain items that are only available for certain classes in the raid, and once again, some amps are not available at all. If you look at haste amps, I think we have not gotten a single one in our raids yet, for Cloffies at least.
Yeah, what
Like,
about crit for mail, dude? I know.
Or crit, like just I mean, like we said, like acquisition of them is just horrendous, and there's just so many of them. Again, you can't even fill a whole loot table unless you would like you said, put them in groups where you can then decide what you get. So what maybe could be done is like how right now the visions give you the options to add a socket, but instead of like a socket, there should be also a system how you can like add a corruption to like an item, like a tier 1, and then you can upgrade it further to a tier 2 and tier 3. That would be something I would like to see.
Okay.
And a big issue for me still with the whole system, once again, kind of like the affixes in M+, the negative effects. It obviously makes sense in the theme that it's corruptions, and Zoth is whispering you, and you kind of get a little mind controlled or whatever. But like this thing from beyond, as much as we meme there with our weak aura and everything, or like the slow and the eye, it can just come at so bad timings. When you then don't have like your active ready, it's just horrendous. And I just don't like the playstyle of having bosses plus then my own items trying to destroy my gameplay. I just don't think it's fun running away from my thing from beyond or banishing it and losing globals. That's maybe just me. Maybe some people do enjoy that though.
I mean, what do you think, Maris? Do you enjoy the bad effects of the corruption? I
don't.
personally don't like the slow one specifically. I think the slow is the really unfun. The things from beyond.
I think that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the thing from beyond is actually the easiest one out of all of them, and I would be okay if it would only be that one. But the combination of all of those is really bad, in my personal opinion. Like the slow is obviously the worst one by far, and the eye is just annoying for everyone who plays healer. I don't know if Chief can say anything for it, but I think the eye is just the most annoying one for a healing spec. Like nothing is happening, and then out of nowhere, like 10 different people tank 10 eye stacks and take like the super damage. And I don't know. I just feel like the corruption system, because you said how to save it and move on to the next expansion. Personally, I thought it will be way better this time around. That, for example, everything in the raid will be corrupted, and we will have a lot of choice about what corruption we will have. But that's not how it ended up. So maybe you could kind of find a good middle ground with just having everything corrupted that drops like from the raid or any source, basically. But on the other hand, I'm kind of on Jeeves' side, and I don't want to see it at all anymore. Because it's
fully removed, yeah.
Yeah, because I think it's just an additional layer of gear that you need to have. Yeah, they removed Titan Forging, what was cool in my opinion. They were like, yeah, we're gonna remove the full RNG factor.
Double thumbs up for that. Yeah.
But we're gonna basically add another item, because right now I look at my characters, I see, oh cool, I have the Nazorth ring, for example. But it's useless because I want to have corruption on it, yeah. So it's like, okay, so I basically need to loot the item again with another layer of loot that I need to get the good item.
I mean, you can also play a class that their best corruption is guaranteed on their weapons, and they can have 2 of them from the raid. I don't know if what that class would be. I mean, I'm not gonna say it.
Class.
It's yeah.
Obviously, you could
Is it also a class that's good in PvP and good in
And
raid
and island
visions,
expeditions.
well known
and
for being super
visions.
difficult?
Yeah,
yeah.
it's that class.
I
Exactly.
heard the class exists. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
elemental German, yeah.
yes,
Elemental
dude.
German,
Yes.
I knew it. I knew it.
No, but like I don't know, I feel like the system is just bad in every aspect. Like the idea was cool, and I think the idea was fine for this raid if it would have been on every item and we have actually choice what to use and what to pick and what not. But in general, it's just another. They removed the proc item that I have like 20 more item level than someone else, but they added the corruption, so which means I have maybe a mythic item, but someone else has like gushing wounds on a 20 item level lower piece, but it is basically the same damage, yeah, or more. So it's like to me it felt like they didn't remove anything. I was still as lucky or unlucky as before with my gear.
I'll never forget equipping those blue legs that I got from the World
Yeah.
Quest with Echoing
Yeah.
Void that were like 60 eye levels less than my crafted ones could be. Thank you, Blizzard, for that experience. Really appreciate it.
I think the meme about that is just like that they explicitly said, yeah, that they don't wanna have us taking low
Downgrade
item
item
level.
level.
Right,
Exactly.
the eye
Yeah.
level
Like,
should be
When
yeah.
the whole topic was like we want you to gear like equip your highest items or like one of them, and like you just downgrade to like literally start of the expansion gear.
No, when people started farming war supply crates because they had the corruption proc items in there,
Yeah.
then you knew the game had a big problem.
But I'm just wondering, like, because you guys know Blizzard, they're not gonna just remove corruption, remove time forging, and just that's it, guys. There's just you get the item, you got it. That's it. You're done. They're gonna add something. You know it. What
Yeah, but
do you want them to do? I mean, we can say do nothing. Just let us have our best in slot items, and
Warforging.
yeah,
yeah,
well,
okay.
exactly. Like
Warforging
basically like
up
Zone of Thunder, yeah.
up to 10 eye
Exactly.
levels or what?
Literally
Yeah,
how Drone
yeah.
was, I think.
Yeah,
Like you
Zone of Thunder was 5
Six.
and 10, right?
No, it
Or
was 6 eye level. 6.
Yeah.
what
And I think it would be important to also include a currency and way to deterministically acquire that power level as well. That you
Yeah.
can
yeah.
Yes.
grind currency to add the item levels if you're unfortunate and don't have them drop.
What
And,
I
and
especially
what about
like,
the would you say the same for sockets as well, G? Just like we have now?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think there should be socket procs. That wasn't the thing during Warforging either.
Yeah, I agree with Fabo. It should be
Sockets should be
baseline, yeah.
I
Either
almost agree
baseline
with
or
that.
none, and then
That-
just have a upgrade system for item level.
That would
And
be amazing.
what I especially liked about the Warforging, I don't know if it was both difficulty and size, but I now like in 25 man, I think you had a higher chance to Warforge or in heroic. Either way.
No, I think
Oh,
was it like Thunderforge and Warforged? And
Yeah, but-
Thunderforge was only heroic or something.
Like
I'm
I
not
just
too sure.
I just feel like it's nice if like by difficulty the chance of actually Warforged items would go up again. Like that you actually like if as an heroic raider you have already pretty good chance, as a mythic raider eventually even better. And like I feel this is what also kept the content then like interesting, the farm. I mean, let's be real, as much as especially we hardcore raiders see like loot just like a way to kill our next bosses, it's obviously still nice and fun to get like these little upgrades. But like someone getting like that Warforged trinket won't randomly make him like 4k DPS better than you. So you have something you can still look forward to. I think what's the big point here, it was also a reachable goal. I think it was pretty legit getting everything Warforged at the end of a farm period, as long as you were like one of the raiders that cleared it pretty early. And that makes it kind of exciting, because nowadays I feel like I'm not even motivated anymore to actually go for like Biz Corruption or back then Biz Titan Forging, just because I know the chance that I will end up with that is very low.
it's unachievable, right?
Yeah.
And as you said, like if you run the dungeon or the raid from the start, kind of, and then you just got unlucky and you don't have like 3 or 4 pieces, then you would use a currency like Jeet said to finish up your set with just upgrading them yourself.
Exactly.
Like let's say you can upgrade one item every 2 weeks or something. Yeah, okay, similar to the sockets right now. Yeah, I don't know if we can probably talk a bit about more on the sockets thing, but I think we're gonna leave that for another time, since the time is pretty late. Do you guys have any closing thoughts? We have one more thing we'll do before we end the show. But do you guys have any closing thoughts on what we've discussed thus far? Anyone? Maris, Deep Sage, Jeeth, anything that we haven't talked about? I don't think so.
No.
Or?
I'm just hoping Blizzard is listening, honestly.
Yeah, true. Guys,
And maybe that we see some stuff change a lot. Like my hopes is that we will get alpha or beta, and then they will hopefully listen to, I feel like, more feedback and also change stuff. Yeah,
Yeah, for
that
sure.
would be ideal.
that's a good point, guys. Keep in mind that we're having these discussions. The power is also in your hands, the viewer. Let Blizzard know how you feel about these things. Maybe you don't share the same opinion as us, but get on the alpha, beta, whatever you can get your hands on. Spam us for getting a key or something when we have them as well, and go on the forums. Let them know how what you feel about these systems, and hopefully they will listen, and we won't have another BFA launch situation in our hands. But
in a proper manner, of course.
yeah, of
Some
course,
people-
be constructive. Don't just be like, ugh,
This sucks.
This
Yeah.
sucks. Ugh. Just be constructive. That's what we try to do in this podcast. So, having said that, guys, if you have any questions, get them ready. In the meantime, we're gonna do something for the first time. Let me check something real quick. Okay. So, last week I asked you guys to post your character details. Let me see if I can get it here. Tack. Review. Okay, it works. Excellent.
That's the same.
Whew. So, getting it over here. So last week we asked you to fill this form, which is okay. Everything is working. Excellent. Boom. There you go. So we asked you to fill this form if you want a review basically of your character and what you're struggling with in game, and we had some responses, and today we're gonna be looking into one of them, his name is it's Zrini Pala. There you go. That's the boy. A little bit tough to say the name, but and Jeeth, of course, being a holy paladin himself, is gonna help us out here. So, Jeeth, have you had the chance to look at this character? Just straight from the armory, anything you've noticed that needs a bit of attention? Anything that's perhaps a Pepega thing that's happening?
No, this fellow gentleman, lady, I'm not sure, this entity is doing the Zoth progression at the moment, it looks like, and has pretty much everything set up basically how you would. I actually went and looked at the most recent logs that he or she has been fighting Zoth with. On the armory, we've got haste enchants. In the logs, we've got mastery enchants and gems. You would probably want to use haste like you have on the armory. Just wondering if you tried something new from Zoth. I actually did a full mastery build on my Holy Paladin for a couple of weeks, playing with kind of a cheeky mastery amp build where you play with 2 Avenger's Mites, which, for those of you who don't know, gives you a bunch of mastery during wings. And then a mastery amp piece or 2 that increases all of your mastery from all sources by a percentage, and then you gem and enchant mastery. And you can end up with literally over 100% bonus healing during wings from your mastery if you do that. It's probably not as good on the Zoth as just playing Ineffable Truth, so probably go back to the haste like it looks like you're using on your armory.
As by the way, we're watching right now. I don't know if you're looking as well. We're watching live the attempts on Carapace. So good luck, by the way. Hope you get it. Do you want me to look at specifically at the logs? Because you mentioned them. Anything you want to point out?
Yeah. So Our friend Zerini, there's so many consonants in his name, I don't know how to say that, had a couple of questions. He said struggled to decide between playing double
Oh yeah, let
Avengers
me
Trade or 2 times Heart of Darkness.
hold on. Yeah, let me read that out just so that
Yeah.
ta-da-da. So here's the because we have in a section where they can say a comment like what they want help with, and he or she said just any major tips for N'Zoth progress, how to best optimize inevitable truth procs. I struggle to decide between playing 2 times Avengers trait or 2 times Hod trait. Don't even know what that is. I know Claw is awesome for Psycho's DPS, but don't know if the lack of Alchemy Trinket / Hamming Trinket is worth it. Playing Tier 5 IT, Ineffable Truth, I guess, yeah, feels good, but so does Tier 2 Masterful with a Tier 3 Honed Mind and a Tier 1 Ineffable Truth. Some people play Ineffable Truth religiously, others say it is not worth it. Would love some input for Giga World Ranked guys. Okay, that was a bit of a big one. Just to give you an idea, guys, obviously Jeeth knows a lot better what that meant. So moving on, just wanted to fully express the idea if some other Holy Paladin has the same questions. Go on then, Jeeth.
Very good. So to answer those specific questions for healing N'Zoth, play the double Avengers traits instead of Heart of Darkness. Heart of Darkness will give you less healing, but more damage. So what I do is I play Avengers Might for Raid and Heart of Darkness for Mythic Plus. Heart of Darkness boosts all of your stats, so it increases your haste and your versatility and your crit, which enables you to do more damage in dungeons. But Avengers Might gives you way more mastery in your wings, which is when you do the majority of your healing, and so it's a bigger HPS increase. Claw is awesome, but it's not for Psychus DPS. Using the Claw on the Psychus looks really good, but by the time that you're using the Claw, all damage is amplified on Psychus, and it's kind of a waste there because your Fire Mage Ignite tick once does the same damage, and you're basically just stealing pie that would already have been eaten by your mage or your hunter or someone else, and doing kind of useless damage. You want to use your Claw on either a tentacle down on the Psychus to kill it faster and get the debuff on the Psychus faster, or even better, on the N'Zoth during your burn phase. That's much more relevant damage.
Yeah,
it
here,
is worth using the. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm just showing here like one of their longer attempts at least, where I think he is using it on the Psychos here, as we can see. Yeah.
And it does 1 million damage and it looks really good, but that's literally like one hit from a DPS player. You're not actually increasing the rate at which you get out of there in any relevant way. It's much better to get the stacks on the Psychus faster or use it on the Zoth for the burn. But I do think using the Claw is better than using either the Alchemy Trinket or the Humming Trinket, both for the damage it provides. And you won't believe me, but because if you play a lot of Ineffable Truth and you play really well, the Claw provides some mana, which you actually do need. And none of you are going to believe me, but I can prove it with a log. If you play perfectly with a lot of Ineffable Truth, Holy Paladin does go Oom. Anyway, so then your last question was...
Going Oom? That is impossible. I will. That is.
If you play a lot of Ineffable Truth and you play a lot of haste and you play perfectly and don't miss Holy Shocks, then because of the Ineffable Truth procs, you are pushing Holy Shock and Light of Dawn way more, which costs mana, and Crusader Strike and Empty GCDs way less, which are free, and you actually can go Oom. I have a log of Sinesh where I went Oom in 4 minutes without pushing a single Flash of Light or a single Holy Light just because of procs. It does happen, and if you use
you
the
sure
Claw,
you didn't play wrong?
I promise you I didn't. Anyway, your last question was, should you play Ineffable Truth and how much? On the Zoth, Ineffable Truth is by far the best corruption for Holy Paladin. By far, no argument. Just play as much of that as you can, and it's for a couple of reasons. First of all, the Zoth timers aren't very good for baseline wings. Playing Ineffable Truth is going to give you wings more often, and it's going to line up better with the damage. And second, because it's such a great output trait, even without giving you more wings. And this is what I wanted to go into as kind of my last point for you, sir, is that you asked how to optimize your Ineffable Truth procs, and I can tell you that you do have some room there to improve. The biggest mistake in your gameplay is misplaying your Crusader Strikes inside of wings and during Ineffable Truth.
Okay. Is there a way we can show that on the logs, actually?
There absolutely is. So
Whew, that sounds scary, yeah.
so
Hey, we listen.
if
We
you,
did say this is a review of the character, but it's also a what was it called?
Character
A
roast.
I think
A
you were
roast,
talking about,
yeah. So a little bit of roasting is good. That's how we learn. Do you want me to go to all the wipes?
Why don't you go to wipe 23, which was the longest one, and
Oh
I
yeah.
looked at a couple of different intervals in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then so just to quickly explain like what I'm talking about, if you could zoom into the first 40 seconds.
The first 40 seconds, yes. Let's say around here, yeah.
Because that's his first Avengers, his first cast of wings.
Right.
And then click on casts and click on events of our friend Zerini Pally. We'll be able to see, this is how I examine myself and any other paladin that's asking for help to see what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong.
Sorry.
Which is your actual casts.
Sorry, what did you say? Casts and then what?
Events.
Top
right.
The
Oh,
top right,
yeah,
by
yeah.
queries, timelines, events.
Yeah,
and this way you can see exactly what you're casting when. It's a really good analytical tool I encourage everyone to use to see what you're casting well and what you're casting wrong, global by global. So here we can see a cast of Holy Avenger into Avenging Wrath, into Crusader Strike, Holy Shock, Judgment, Beacon, Holy Shock, Crusader Strike, Holy Shock. And already there's things there that can be improved. And the theme of what my feedback for you is fixing Crusader Strike. So first of all, you want to go into your Avenging Wrath with your very next global being Holy Shock. Every global in Avenging Wrath should be as many Holy Shocks as you can possibly cast. Going into Avenging Wrath and pushing Crusader Strike first means that you've wasted cooldown reduction from Crusader Strike that could have been spent outside of the Avenging Wrath instead, and you've lost an entire Holy Shock. You want a Holy Shock first global after Avenging Wrath, and then you would Crusader Strike, and then you would Holy Shock. And then, so that's already like...
Hold on. I see a lot of Fs in the chat. No. Are you kidding me?
I think Roger just at the wrong spot, huh?
What?
Roger?
Is the stream on?
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, it's loading for me, so I'm a bit confused.
For me, it's working perfect.
For me, I see you move around.
Okay.
Jeeve is also moving. Perfect.
Okay, sorry.
Oh, but so on your log, click X on guilds.
On guilds? Oh,
just
here.
Exit out of that. Exit out of that entirely. Get rid of the Zerny as well.
Oh, I'll go here. Yeah. Okay, there you go. Yeah. I'm here. I'm here. Yep.
Are you okay? Yeah, then we can see what he's casting. I'm several seconds behind you on the stream.
Of course. Yeah. By the way, chat, we're gonna try to have this process a bit faster so that I don't have to control it necessarily for next time. But yeah, go on, Chief.
Okay, so the basic principle, the most common mistake that Holy Paladins make, and that our friend here is making very frequently as well, is misusing Crusader Strike. The thing about Crusader Strike is that it reduces the cooldown of Holy Shock by 1.5 seconds, but it also, and this is what people mess up, it also consumes a global cooldown. So you don't want to ever push Crusader Strike unless Holy Shock is more than 1.5 seconds of Crusader's Might cooldown reduction plus the global cooldown away. If Holy Shock was available to be pushed next global cooldown after your current one, regardless of what that global cooldown was, then pushing Crusader Strike wastes the 1.5 seconds of Crusader's Might cooldown reduction. You could have pushed Judgment and then Holy Shock, or Light of Dawn and then Holy Shock, and pushing the Crusader Strike just wastes the Crusader Strike entirely. And that is the most common mistake people make at all levels of play as a Holy Paladin. I make that mistake sometimes too. You look at your Holy Shock and it's not up. You look at Crusader Strike, it is up. You push it, just kind of automatically. That's an error. You should only push it if Holy Shock isn't available for at least one global plus the 1.5 seconds of cooldown reduction. And that's the mistake you're making throughout this Avenging Wrath cast. And that's the biggest mistake you're also making. And this is the question you asked about how to optimize Ineffable Truth procs. When Ineffable Truth procs, when you're running as much of it as you are, then outside of wings, you can push Holy Shock, Crusader Strike, Holy Shock, Crusader Strike as though you had wings up. And then inside of wings, and this is the biggest mistake I saw, you're continuing to play as though Ineffable Truth hadn't procced. You're pushing Holy Shock, Crusader Strike, Holy Shock, Crusader Strike inside wings. But when Ineffable Truth procs inside of wings. The Crusader Strike is overkill. You're going to be able to push Holy Shock every other global cooldown, regardless of which global cooldown you push between it. You can push Holy Shock Light on Holy Shock Judgment, Holy Shock, Flash of Light, Holy Shock. The Crusader Strikes are wasting their cooldown reduction. And then when the proc is over, you don't have the 2 extra charges of Crusader Strike that you could have had for 3 seconds of cooldown reduction that you could have had and just lost it, thrown it away. And there's an example of that that we can zoom into as well if you want.
Yeah.
It's,
where is it? I just think that is funny.
Roger's a little bit confused.
No. I'm fully fascinated by this. I understand
so
exactly what you're saying. Go on.
If you zoom in, into 1 minute and 25 seconds to 1 minute and 57 seconds on poll 23, this is a period of time.
And 1 minute 57, you said. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I apologize. 1 sec.
Oh.
Oh, the apology.
Yeah, it's 22 seconds to 32 seconds. This was a 10-second window in which you had Ineffable Truth and Wings Up.
Wait, 122.
No, I'm sorry. 0-22. 22 to 32.
Okay.
From 22 to 32, you had Avenging Wrath and Ineffable Truth proc. Ineffable Truth is a 10-second proc.
Yeah, can I show the buffs at the same time? Yeah.
You can, yeah. If you go to buffs and then turn off events, it's easier to see as a table.
Okay. Where is it?
Table instead of
yeah.
Top right,
events.
tables.
No, yeah, I have that. Ineffable Truth here.
Yeah.
We can see it. It's
so you see
basically in the
Ineffable
middle.
Truth and Avenging Wrath both
Right.
up. Exactly.
Yeah.
So going back to cast, when you have a proc of Ineffable Truth during Wings, during Holy Avenger, using those Crusader Strikes, you can see at 25 seconds Holy Shock, and then your next global is Crusader Strike, and then Holy Shock and the Crusader Strike. You're playing as though Ineffable Truth hadn't procced at all, and you're essentially completely wasting it.
Yeah.
Instead, you could reserve those Crusader Strikes for after the Ineffable Truth proc is over. You could Holy Shock Light of Dawn, Holy Shock Flash of Light, Holy Shock Judgment, Holy Shock, or if you have enough haste, it's also possible, depending on how much haste you have, that if you have Ineffable Truth, Holy Avenger, and Wings Up, you can push nothing but Holy Shock.
Holy Shock.
Yes,
what a
extremely
rotation.
Engaging rotation.
You're the
where
DH of
it's-
healing. There you go.
Holy Shock every global for 10 seconds. It happens. It's so much fun. Very engaging. And then you
and then I still don't get healed.
Yeah, true. I can only Holy Shock one person at a time. Never hunters. Anyway,
Okay.
That's the biggest area.
He's in chat, by the way, Jeeth, yeah? Just so you know.
Okay.
Yeah. I got him in, dude.
Sadly for
I
me,
can't
chat not
see
working.
chat. My chat is bugged. It's just
Yeah, mine is
saying-
dead as well.
Really? Oh.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
my stream works.
Yeah.
Nah,
it's-
just the chat. My chat has been bugging the
Oh,
whole
chat-
day. I need to
Yeah.
reload like
Chat
6
is-
times.
Oh.
Don't
Oh, now I
reload.
see something.
Yeah.
Mira's flaming, Kek W.
Kick W. Okay, there you go. Jeeth, is there anything else in terms of? I mean,
Oh.
you see, he's pretty early on. Yeah.
One more thing I wanted to say is just on terms of like character review, like I said, haste instead of mastery, and then your essences. On this log at least, you're running Formless Void instead of Ward, and you can see that if you click on summary and tables. So Zerna Pali tables summary, you can see what essences someone's wearing.
Yeah. I mean, you
And
can
you're
see it
using,
here, I think. Pretty sure.
yeah, well, vision, formless, and conflict. Vision is a given. Conflict and strife is a given. And then your third given, instead of formless, should be unwavering ward. Especially on Azoth, you're stacked up so much. Unwavering ward is going to give you vastly more value than formless. The two that you kind of flip between is if people will frequently fall below 50% health, which is what procs Well of Existence, then you use Well of Existence. If they won't, then you swap it out for formless. So you use either Formless Void or Well of Existence as your like fourth essence, and then slot in Unwavering Ward as an always pick. And that was the last thing I wanted to say. Is kind of this character review.
Pretty sure. Can't you see this in?
Oh, I just got full Holy Priest, Holy Pala coaching. Now I know what to do.
Yeah,
Now
now I
you-
feel smarter than average Holy Pal already.
Yeah.
Now, guys, if you're not a Holy Pala, now you know that when they got their procs up, they can literally walk around and spam Holy
And
Shot.
spam one button, yeah.
And so you can flame them if they don't heal you. But
True.
I think that was a pretty good explanation. I hope it helped. I mean, Zerny, literally ready to F in a game. Let's go, guys. So, if you want to have a similar review for your characters and perhaps a bit of a roasting, make sure you put your details here on the review. Ideally, guys, have a YouTube video or a Twitch VOD where we can actually review the actual playstyle, because right now you didn't provide that exactly. I mean, like a specific try would be better. Yes, we do have the we do have
The log, yeah.
the, what is it?
Or what do you mean?
No, we have the stream right now going on,
Oh,
but
yeah.
instead of going back and seeing if you streamed previously your actual progress or the boss that you need help with, please, it will help if you provide a specific video. So you will get a lot better feedback if you do that instead. So, tag.
Wait,
All right,
Roger,
chat. Yeah.
when is Xavier on the show? I wanna send my POV.
Ooh, that would be
Oh.
quite spicy, actually. Yes. Well, having said that, guys, we have been running for again 2.5 hours basically. So this must be the end. If you have any questions, honestly, too late. Unfortunately, we ran a bit overtime. We will be back next week though. So if you have a question, keep it, write it down. If it's a quick one, maybe we can whip it out. But this has been a Method to the Madness, guys. Oh wait, I'm pointing the wrong way. It has been with Mr. Jeeth, which you can find at twitch.tv/Jeeth the Bell. Great name. He renamed in-game as well recently. Congratulations on that, Jeeth.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us. Meres, which is right there. You can find out twitch.tv/MeresTV. He's going to be participating in the MDI soon, so check that out. Go support our team there.
Thank you.
And also you can follow him on Method Meres on Twitter. And last but not least, we have the... Oh, wait. It's so confusing. You know where he is. He's right there. I need to revert my camera so that it's like a mirror. And it's Deep Sage, the boy, coming to the show out of the shadows. Hasn't been too active recently, but rumor has it that as soon as the alpha or beta is out, he's gonna be playing 24/7. So give him a follow on twitch.tv/deepsage and on Twitter at methodsage. Yeah, guys, by the way, for the reviews, of course, we might pick a specific person that is undergeared and needs a lot of help, but we want to try to keep it a bit more high level, let's say. If the stuff you're struggling with can be answered by a guide, probably go there first. We want to try to give that min-maxing tips and tricks at a bit of a higher level. So just that's the vibe we're going for here. Do send though your reviews, and who knows, maybe depending on who the guests are, we will pick you next week. Other than that, guys, thanks so much for watching. Any final thoughts, Chief? Any shout-outs that you want to do? Any,
I would like to shout out really fun and engaging class-based gameplay that is not excessively based on RNG variants and scales with skill. Big shout out there.
Shout out to that. Cheers. Meres, anything you want to say? Closing.
I'm gonna shout out the 10 Blizzard employees that are currently watching, and I hope you're having you're working on the alpha and you're listening to the feedback. Thank you.
We have spotted you. We have data mined you that you're in the chat.
Yeah.
And what about you, Deep Sage?
Nah,
Any
I'm
shout
good,
outs? He's good.
Nah.
Acting cool, I see. I like it.
I mean, who should I shout out from? Who should I shout out to?
I don't know, dude. I don't know. Oof. All right, guys. Well, this has been the second Method to the Madness podcast. Join us next week with we'll see who is going to be the guest and what the topics will be. Still to be determined. Still just a new show, guys. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week. Bye. Wave, deep shades.
Pablo can't wait.
I'm not
Right.
looking at Discord, I swear. Yeah.
Okay. Bye,
Sorry,
guys. Whoo.
Oh my.